get room tone. We're live already?
Yeah.
Shit, we're live? Okay. Just like that, ladies and gentlemen. More, really, the gentlemen. Not that I don't love the ladies, but they're usually not here.
No.
We are here for what would be the weekly, regularly scheduled recording. Oh, we didn't move the little microphone dealy.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine, my Aunt Fanny.
It'll be fine.
Anyway, this is the Magic Box. Here's the lid of the Magic Box. We're talking about Cube. I'm Tristan Sean Gregson here with Kyle Eck. It's been a whirlwind of a long evening as we've waited for the last of the Cube matches to finish up.
We went surprisingly deep tonight.
A Sensei's Divining Top and a surprisingly large number of control decks were involved.
It's almost like there was a good reason they banned that card in a lot of constructed formats.
Your guess is as good as mine. Oh, right out of the gate, Nora wants to know what our thoughts on Isolated Chapel versus Caves of Koilos versus Fetid Ethar. It's like he waited up until the wee hours of the morn to know these things.
Fetid Heath by far is the best of those.
Agreed. It's funny. I think if we kind of lost some more of the symmetry of Cube, those would be cards, Isolated Chapel and Caves of Koilos. Those would be cards that I would add into Cube. Again, if we were to lose symmetry on dual lands, because I think the black-white ones are so important to make that deck go, which is a topic we touched on last week.
Yeah.
Or Monday, or who knows when.
Whenever. Last episode.
Yeah, when drafting black-white, again, it's...
All the good cards are double black, double white, triples even.
It's gospel at this point. We all get it. And the lands are so important. I mean, when I'm drafting blue-white, it's like it's nice to have Tundra, but it's not a must. Control, usually, not the tempo deck. When I'm drafting red-green, dual lands are nice, usually, et cetera, et cetera. But for black-white, they're really important. So Fetid Heath is clearly the best of those three. I would definitely play Isolated Chapel over Caves. I think Caves is at the bottom of this list for sure.
I don't like the pain lands, like any of them really.
Well, the fact that it'd be one thing if they were the land types and they damaged you.
Yeah.
Like if they were the land types and they always took one, like there was an
That'd
option
be
for
fine.
colors. Yeah, it would be fine because again they have the land types, you can search them up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think that the filter lands kind of circumvent that because of how sweet they are. With their ability to go from like one white to double black, you can go plains on turn one, Bloodghast on deal, like Isamaro into Bloodghast, like having that kind of ability.
It's really
good. So, with a little impromptu chat, thank you very much. That's kind of what we're here for on the live side. I don't think you updated what our topics are over on the Twitch page.
Yep.
Oh, you did? Oh,
I'm on top of it.
I can't even see what they are, so I can make sure that I say them properly. We're doing our top 10 favorite cards from Cube tonight. It's going to be some card mashups, some Versus series cards.
Card fights.
Card fight. And last but not least,
we have a pack.
More. It says more on there.
Yeah, we have a pack to do.
We do have a pack to do, as is customary with most Cube podcasts.
Should we start with that?
I think so. It's obviously why we're all here, all five of us.
Oh, yeah.
So let's do the Crack-a-Pack for today's show.
Okay.
And I will tell the people listening to this after the fact what we're looking at. All right, so top left down, we've got a Debtor's Knell. We've got an Orzhov Basilica. We have a Deathrite Shaman, a Worldly Tutor, an Orthan Viper, the Old Lightning Bolt, Phantasmal Image, Dreadbore, Caracas, Sphinx of Dwar Isle, Arrogant Bloodlord, Grand Arbiter Augustine the Fourth.
Not the third or the second.
Or the fifth. Yeah. Precursor Goblin, Gideon Champion of Justice, and last but not least, Goblin Settler here. So what jumps out at you, Eck?
I mean, this is a really underpowered pack. Obviously there's no power, there's no what I would consider immediate kind of build around plan cards, nothing like Oath of Druids, Tinker, Recurring Nightmare, etc. There's not even immensely powerful artifact. I mean, Precursor Golem is good, but it's not great. There's no dual... Orzhov Basilica is there as a dual land, but I don't like taking the bounce lands super early. I mean, I kind of want to just take Lightning Bolt out of this pack, as unexciting as that is. You're almost always going to try and play it, especially... Even if you don't end up in red, if you have some incidental fixing... getting Lightning Bolt's always good. I mean, there's not a lot of red in this pack also, so you could maybe try and keep, try and force red and pass a minimum of it to try and get hooked up on later packs. But yeah, I mean, Debtor's Knell is just really slow. Deathrite Shaman is good, but not great in cube. I mean, Phantasmal Image is good, but I don't know. I would just take both.
You could again, to jump in here. I don't think you're like cutting red hard. I don't think you're forcing red. Lightning Bolt makes its way into so many different decks. I think Lightning Bolt is easily the safe pick here. If I was to kind of try to go deeper on this situation, maybe one level, I might first pick the Phantasmal Image with the hope of getting back Sphinx of Jor-El, Grand Arbiter, or Caracas to kind of go for that blue-white kind of like value guys. Again, you cross your fingers for Rebel Arc, but that's something new for me. Being able to Phantasmal Image a Sphinx of Jor-El is spectacular. I know that our good friend Lewis thinks Sphinx of Jor-El is one of the best win conditions in all of Cube, and while I think he evaluates it a little too highly, I definitely can see where taking it here could be good. So I like Phantasmal Image, I like Lightning Bolt. Beyond those, as far as a first pick scenario goes, Worldly Tutor isn't quite good enough for me. Gideon Champion is fine, and you can draft the Wrath deck. There are plenty of them out there. I think that card still needs a lot more kind of play with all to really know exactly where it's at. Deathrite Shaman could be a fine move as well. Again, once you take that card out of the pack, the green kind of goes in a weird direction, and there's only one black card left. Not to say that the Deathrite Shaman is a move on either of those directions, but you have that option. So I wouldn't fault someone for taking Deathrite Shaman. I wouldn't fault someone for taking Gideon. I wouldn't fault someone for taking Phantasmal Image or even Sphinx. But I think that no harm, no foul can be done by taking Lightning Bolt. I definitely have days where I just would open this pack, look at it, and just snap off a Lightning Bolt.
Do you not like taking Dreadboard just because it's two-colored?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a sorcery speed card. It's a two-color card. A lot of my decks aren't going to want to play it, or it's just not going to fit right for them. The flip side of that is there are going to be plenty that are, but at this stage of the draft, pick one, back one, that's just not where we're at right now.
And any deck that plays Dreadboard would also play Lightning Bolt, too.
Yeah, completely agree. But, not all of one and none of the other.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Grand Arbiter would be the two-color card I would take if I was taking a two-color card here. But this one doesn't seem overly complicated. It doesn't seem ridiculous. So, we'll say Lightning Bolt is safe, but I also really get behind Phantasmal Image, Gideon, or Sphinx or Deathrite Shaman. All those cards are fine.
So yeah, Lightning Bolt is the winner.
So much us here.
Yeah.
We've doubled our viewership while we were doing the Kraken Pack.
Woohoo!
So early on in the process here. It's been a full 8 minutes. We've already busted out the first pack, and that's why we have so many sweet images to share with everyone today.
We have a lot to talk about.
I mean, kind of. I think the versus kind of segment is one that can come up from time to time. Just kind of brainstorming topics we've already covered a lot on this show. We often mash up cards against each other when someone's trying to make a case for one or thinks that one should leave.
A lot of times there's a spotting cube for a type of card, and there are multiple different things that can fill that role, and each card has its pros and cons and reasons one's better than the other, or they do things slightly differently, whatever it is. So there's a lot of debate, for individual slots in cube that we go back and forth on a lot of cards.
I will say, Norbert, that let's see. So the first show we did, which was very impromptu, was just a test session. We got about at our height. I think we had 55 live in the room.
Yeah.
And then for Monday, where we tried to be more attuned to the East Coast crowd, we only got up to like the high 40s. I felt like.
Well, we were more structured, but it was like. It was again.
It was
like
a bit impromptu.
Surprise!
I mean,
we're doing.
We kind of promised to be here every Wednesday, hopefully earlier than this time again.
Yeah.
League ran pretty late this tonight, but we did not quite. I thought East Coast. I know plenty of people of East Coast via Twitter and other Magic connections. It didn't show. Maybe next time. I'm not opposed to trying to start things up at 4 to 6 Pacific time for us. It's really when things work out.
Yeah.
It's just Cube League nights are so great for us because we're playing. It's in our heads.
Yeah. Thinking about it for several hours before coming into this.
So back to the more main topics of the evening. The versus kind of mashups are things we run into a lot. Usually, what makes the best kind of versus mashups are when it's cards with the same casting cost, potentially filling the same roles. It's kind of a little more awkward to go. What do you think about Palancron versus
Vendilion Click.
or
or
sure,
whatever.
Sure, like they're both creatures. Yeah, they're both blue, but they just
The similarities stop there.
yeah, they're so different beyond that it's really hard to try to mash them up against each other.
Yeah.
So that being said, I guess we'll just jump right into the versus segments. Now, a lot of these are things we've talked about in the past and kind of just come to decisions one way or the other on. Some of them we haven't really kind of come to a consensus on and are still great points of contest. So maybe, when you see them, well, one card is in the list currently, but one isn't. What does that mean? This means that, maybe one is in favor right now. It's not necessarily clearly better than the other.
A lot of times cards will get traded out, not necessarily because, they printed a new awesome version of this effect, but just, it's a slightly different version of the effect, and, you want to try and play it, see if it's better or worse, or how it's different, or if it's more popular or less popular.
Yeah,
a little variety.
I consider very few of these, if any, to be clearly A and not B, and clearly, this.
I think there's a few. I think there are a few that are. I mean, I was looking at the list when I was putting it together, and
these are all tonight are all examples. I think that are really kind of like past conversations.
Yeah,
they're not really current conversations. They're much more past. So let's just jump right into it. A real easy one for here, since we've got Wing Shards versus Exile. What's better and why? Which side of this one do you want to take, or do you have a strong opinion?
Do you mean which one I want in the cube?
Which one do you think's better?
Exile.
And this is because
the life gain is surprisingly relevant because it's you who are gaining the life. Non-white's an annoying drawback, but it's not the end of the world. It's easier to cast, and the upside on wing shards, the storm, getting multiple guys, comes up very rarely.
It is awkward how rare that one comes up. I think Wing Shards has had a very long lifespan in Cube, and never in its long lifespan has there been a time where it's man, my opponent attacked in and I blew him out with Wing Shards. It was just, I got all three of his guys.
It's sweet if you get a shrouded dude or something, but so rarely are people just jamming spells before combat and swing with my 5 creatures. Gotcha.
And that was the argument for it for the longest time. It was against the haste decks, you're really getting
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
And then it has the backup of kind of being that instant speed edict against your Blightsteel Colossuses, your Inkwell Leviathans. We've got them covered.
When Wing Shards was in Cube, I almost as often as I got an actual card with Wing Shards, I would get a token.
Yeah.
They go Spectral Possession, and then the next turn they just attack with their flyers or something.
But at least you could cast Wing Shards against the guy with Spectral Possession. You can't even cast Exile against it.
That's certainly true, but, that's not really what I want to be spending 3 mana and a card on, is killing a token.
Right,
right.
That being said, currently in Cube right now, Exile is in over Wing Shards.
Removal from the game is also relevant.
Right, yeah. Exiling your opponent's action is pretty key. Gaining life is really big against the red deck. So for all the people that are they cast Ball Lightning, they attack with Jackal-Pup Ball Lightning, you get them both all in one foul swoop. That comes up a lot.
So
rarely. And with Exile, yeah, sure, you're getting attacked by Ball Lightning, Jackal-Pup, you only gain 1, but the other things you can do with it kind of outweigh it.
Yeah. The life gain is really, really good.
It's not it's not a clear blowout to me because again, I think you had a deck just recently where the only creatures I attacked you with during our match were white ones or ones with Shroud.
Yeah, it was a lot of Knight of the Reliquary, a lot of
Troll Ascetic. I think there was a
Exile
Silver Knight that got you for a little while.
Exile was abysmal in that matchup.
One
but that's the corner case does not come up all that often.
And again, considering how white aggro kind of just sits on the fringe of what people consider to be a quality draft deck, it's almost nice to kind of give it another nod and be here's a quality removal spell you don't have to worry about from an opponent.
Right.
And that's not even talking about splashability, because there will be kind of blue-black control decks, the Esper's going to touch into Esper for maybe Dromar's Charm, Exile. Yeah. These things do happen. So that one seemed very easy. That was not a heated, not a heated debate.
Let's go to the next one.
Over that one. Here we have Austere Command versus Akroma's Vengeance.
This one's closer.
I will agree with you.
I really kind of like Austere Command here.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you. I think for a really long time in kind of my blue-white control decks, my black-white control decks, my Esper control decks, I was like, oh, Chroma's Vengeance is where I want to be. You know, I can cycle it if it's just not the time. It's like having that kind of...
right. The flexibility is sweet. Like being able to pitch it if you don't need it.
Right.
Try and find something else. You know, drawing like your second or third wrath sucks. So being able to cycle it if you're trying to find a win condition, good.
But ironically, at the 6 mana spot, in a lot of these decks I'm playing, I find that it's not like a clear 3-for-1 or something. I'm usually losing something that I want to be in play, and is often the thing that's powering me up to 6 mana.
Yeah.
It can be pointed out as well that actually neither of these cards are currently in cube.
But this was an argument conversation point that has happened a lot.
It's funny. I think I cut Austere Command what feels like years ago now. I couldn't even tell you. I think I was one of those like fist pumps where I was like 50 cents turned into $20. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On the way out. So it's...
I mean, like, Austere Command is cool because if you can construct board states in such a way that it's a total blowout.
Right, it's kind of like a more modern version of Balance. Like, I don't want to give it that high of a ranking.
That's a lofty claim. I mean, I just think it's like, you know, you can get their cheap guys, let your big guy live, or like peg their guys and get an enchantment from them, or whatever.
I mean, nothing is sweeter than when you're playing the control deck. And it's like you can get your opponent's curse scroll and all their guys.
Yeah.
Or you can
and
get,
like you leave like Exalted Angel in play. Or
sure,
like,
I mean, like you're even greedier than I'm trying to be in this set of circumstances. But it's one thing to be able to like successfully take care of two different sets of problems at the same time, as much as it is to be able to keep your own. I mean, I think that you having access to both is really cool there. So it's not like Austere Command is probably like a clear winner here, which is surprising to me.
It's close though,
because if I was to put a 6 mana like board sweeper back in cube, I would probably just think of Chroma's Vengeance. And I have to do a little more thinking to kind of remember that Austere Command is probably going to be a little more versatile there.
Yeah.
So
round 3.
Deep Analysis versus Jace's Ingenuity here. What do you think on this one?
I like Jace's Ingenuity.
Tell me more.
Being an instant is really relevant. I mean, Deep Analysis is awesome if you can afford both the life and the time to like either get it into your graveyard in some way or spend 4 mana to cast it as a sorcery and then flash it back. Like, that's sweet. But like, Jace's Ingenuity is exactly what you want, the kind of card you want in most blue decks in Cube, where you already have a grip of counter spells and, you know, instant speed plays. Like, especially if you have like stuff like Click, you know, Flash Guys, Teferi, you know, you're going to be sitting untapped a lot. And so having something like Jace's Ingenuity to do at the end of your opponent's turn if they don't play anything threatening is awesome. With Deep Analysis, technically it draws an additional card, and it's a little easier on your mana, but you can't always have... That 3 life comes into play a fair amount.
You are the blue deck.
Yeah.
You're taking your time to make things happen.
Like, tapping on a turn 4 for Deep Analysis never feels good. Ever.
Not never.
Pretty often.
Not never.
Pretty rarely.
Not never. This is clearly a circumstance of I don't ever want to tap out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I don't ever want to tap out.
That's what I mean. Like,
because, you know, you've broken it down. 4 cards, better than 3 cards.
Yeah.
Ability to, you know, maybe target a different player at a time. Again, like, these things do come up, but the ability to, like, mill your opponent out with Deep Analysis as a win condition is pretty appealing for that card. This one is one I'm really on the fence about. We currently run Jace's Ingenuity. I like it, but I also really like Deep Analysis.
I like Deep Analysis too.
And the recurring problem you'll probably find with blue cards is they're all really good and there just aren't enough room.
It's so hard to get into blue.
People in the past, I mean, it's like a half joke, half serious. You just make the blue cube. And you just play with the blue cards.
Yeah.
And then maybe some other cards put in, but those cards probably much act like they're blue cards.
Like, yeah. Like, blue is the VIP lounge of Cube. Like, there's a list, and you're probably not on it.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely.
You have to do something pretty broken to get on the list.
So that being said, I like Deep Analysis a lot, especially, you know, as we're moving towards adding more effects like Oath of Druids, turning cards, you know, from your library into your graveyard for whatever manner.
Confusion.
Yeah. Having access to cards like Deep Analysis, I like it a lot. I'd like to find a way to put Deep Analysis in the cube. You know, in this kind of head-to-head matchup, I don't think there's a clear winner to me. I don't think
it's
this
a lot of
card.
preference.
It can be.
I think
it
it's a
can
lot
be
of
what you want
preference.
to do with your cube.
Yeah, it depends a lot on what else you have going on. I think in a vacuum, the vast majority of how I would consider blue built in a default cube, like a cube skeleton, so to speak. What blue is going to do, and how blue is going to look.
I really need to remake that project. I've mentioned it on Monday that I have that somewhere in my personal archives.
Yeah.
Is the cube skeleton article. Over on the side, Blue
Sun
Sun Zenith, Sphinx of Revelation better than both. Sphinx of Revelation would come under gold cards, and you're adding white mana in there. It's evaluated very differently.
And
Blue Sun Zenith,
blue is
that is. You are already no one's friend if you're playing cards that cost a bunch of mana and require blue, but now you're going triple blue. One day I could see. Now I don't know if I could ever see playing Blue Sun Zenith. And again, I'm not going to say never. It could happen.
It's fine, like being able to target, because Blue Sun's targets.
Yeah,
right?
Blue Sun's targets.
So
this is like Sphinx of Revelation should have targeted.
Right.
Should have been a win condition all unto itself. Come on, jeez.
Should also shuffle back into your deck.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
That way you can control.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway.
I'm calling this one a draw.
Yeah.
I'm calling it a draw.
They'll live to fight another day. All right, round 4.
We are just going through these.
Well, we got a lot of them.
They don't need to know that. They could have like 7. This is 5. Staying with blue, we've got Azure Mage up against Merfolk Looter.
I vote Looter here every day of the week.
Every day of the week.
Every day. Twice on Sundays.
Twice on Sundays. So aggro blue isn't a thing for you, Eck?
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
2 power is good and useful, like for the occasions where you're blocking and want to try and trade.
Mm-hmm.
But like Looter, it gets you through your deck way faster than Azure Mage will. It enables decks like Reanimator. It's just I don't know. Like it just feels so much. It just plays so much smoother than Azure Mage.
So that's interesting because I would take the exact opposite feeling on this one. I feel that Azure Mage plays smoother because it plays like a Grizzly Bear, or it plays like a Treasure Trove, or it plays like both. I mean, it can act as an enchantment, it can act as a Grizzly Bear, it can do both things. Merfolk Looter is, part of the dying race here in the cube, where creatures come into play and they don't immediately do something.
Azure Mage doesn't immediately do anything unless you have 6 mana.
6 mana, it does.
Okay, well,
how good is a card where it could do something at 2 mana and do something at 6 mana? You wish all your cards could do that.
I mean, like, if Azure Mage cost 6 and said, when it comes to play, draw a card, it wouldn't be any good.
So the reason this is the argument right here, we're not matching like Azure Mage versus Juicy Apprentice, is because this was a cut that actually happened recently in the cube. Merfolk Looter has taken a back seat.
I fought hard for Looter, and my voice was...
Looter is not gone forever. Looter could be back. Trying to stay with Azure Mage here for a while and see how it works out. I mean, to me, few things in life are more satisfying than attacking for 2 or 4 damage, or 6 if you're real good with Azure Mage, and then drawing a card or 2.
Yeah, but...
those decks are fewer and further between.
Merfolk Looter lets you keep more hands, too.
I agree.
You can keep ladder... You cannot keep Azure Mage to land...
Yeah, but then you're the kind of guy who does that, and then you just kick yourself as soon as you're like, Looter, go! Your opponent's like, oh, Flames of the Blood Hand, some stuff, kill you. And then you're like, draw a 6 mana spell, draw a 5 mana
Yeah,
spell.
I mean, it happens, but I'm just saying, like, Looter gets you out of jams that Azure Mage won't. Like, obviously, it's better, like, when you have a million mana and you're not doing anything. But, like, is that really worth losing all the early game assistance that Merfolk Looter has in smoothing out your draws? I don't think so.
I know. Again, this is not a forever scenario. This is just something that came out recently. This is a good one. To me, blue creatures that cost less than 6 mana or 4 mana and can attack are so rare to begin with. And you're really trying to like ask beg the question: could you have any kind of blue deck that attacks?
Well, and
without like overly forcing it, without adding Phantasmal Bear.
Right. Don't do that.
It won't happen. Don't worry.
But it's like because of that, like that argument, like, okay, we can't really make a blue deck that attacks unless you kind of force it and put a bunch of like fucking flying men and whatever in there to just try and make like beat down blue. Like, that degrades the value of cards like Azure Mage because they're just going to be like your lone blue attacker. Like, that's not any good. Like, if there was already an aggressive blue slant with cards like Phantasmal Bear and whatever else, then Azure Mage would be better because you're already like looking to attack with guys in your blue deck. So him attacking would be more relevant. But as it's currently constructed, blue doesn't give a shit about attacking on turn 2 and 3. So
and maybe that's just an unexplored area of Cube that needs to be explored better, or those options just aren't there. And we're not playing Delver Secrets, we're not playing Phantasmal Bear,
right.
We're not playing other Phantasmal type cards.
We're not playing a lot of 3 power flyers for 3.
Quick side note over the chat windows, anyone on the East Coast who would be coming in or taking off, who can't stay up till 4 in the morning with us, I completely understand. Again, this will be back in podcast form. Check our Blogspot. The information is also found on the Twitch page to get to the Cube list. So when you're wondering if, cards, other things we may be matching up against here.
All the links are in the Twitch info section.
Yeah, open up the Cube list. That way you can kind of see the things we aren't including when we're talking about these kind of mashup scenarios.
Yeah.
But really, the Azure Mage Merfolk Looter scenario is really just a question of, can blue be aggressive? Can blue do things other than play a slow milling control deck that wants 18, 19 lands? Can it play anything other than half of the Reanimator package? Can it attack and draw cards? I mean, I love Treasure Trove. Treasure Trove's never going to be in Cube.
No. That would be a weird day.
This is my compromise. My personal compromise.
Your little treasure trove.
Yeah, we'll just put a little treasure chest in her hand. We'll make a little altar, and then we'll be like, oh, I have a nice memory. I know, you care a lot. All right.
Yeah,
well, that one, I can't call it, unfortunately.
I wish I could call it.
This battle rages on.
Yeah.
There's not a clear winner here.
Possibly till the end of time. Next fight.
Sever the Bloodline, Decree of Pain. Now, I could point out that Sever the Bloodline recently went up against Consuming Vapors. And this was a long debate on the Twitter machine in the last couple of months. And what I kind of came to was that Sever just does a lot more than
being able to get what you want.
Yeah, and again, this isn't about those two cards. I mean, we can talk about those things another day. But you hit what you want, you exile it. It has the same flashback as like a Chainer's Edict. You're hitting more stuff. But when it finally came to kind of like switch things around in black, it wasn't so much about Sever going in over Consuming Vapors. It was more about a removal spot in Cube, what it was going to be like and what it was going to do.
Right.
And it ended up kind of mashing up against Decree of Pain, which I wasn't too happy about because I think Decree of Pain offers something very unique in Cube.
I really like Decree of Pain.
I like it a lot.
Right.
And it's mostly because, strangely enough, it's an instant speed uncounterable infest.
Which
draws a card.
It's super good. Like, being able to just, like, get some random guys off the table and they can't do anything about it is pretty great.
Yeah, plus, like, it does all kinds of cool combat tricks when you, like, attack, creatures take some damage, and they get smaller and die.
Yeah, like, you can do... And then, like, anytime you get to hard it up is just... Anytime, you wrath and draw, like, any number of cards is just super, super satisfying.
It's very swingy in that regard. And
I've definitely drawn 10 or more cards of Decree of Pain.
Right, and it's one of those cards where it's at this point, it's almost like a mythical thing in Cube that I feel bad not having access to anymore. I mean, even Brian Kibler in the last Players' Championship in the Cube Draft cast a really sweet Decree of Pain.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have cycled an almost as equally sweet Decree of Pain.
But that's not the same.
That's a good story. Well, there were reasons. There was he killed his own Frostite. It doesn't matter. My point is, losing Decree of Pain hurts a lot for me in Cube. And Sever was kind of the thing that was trying to replace it. I mean, this one hurts.
I like Decree of Pain more. I like the fact that it can operate as a sorcery or an instant. I mean, it's a little slower, yeah, but Sever is good. Like, targeting stuff is sweet, but it's still a 4-mana sorcery that gets one guy.
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, if you get tokens or something like that, sweet. But more
you got it on the flashback. I mean, it feels like you're exiling their best stuff in the turns where it matters. I mean, it's costed the right way to me, where it's like, okay, it's going to take out that problem I might have early.
Exile is sweet. Exiling is sweet, and unconditional removal. It's not non-artifact, it's not non-black, it's not monocolored, whatever. Like, the fact that it's just anything you can target, you get the fuck out of here, is great. But, like, Decree of Pain is just such a sweet one. Like, that might be just, like, an emotional...
But it's not. See, like, to me, like, I could see reasons to play it. I think it's going to be a card that's going to come back.
I think so, too.
I'm going Decree of Pain on this one, so look for that to come back in the next Cube update.
Yeah.
We'll find a way. Maybe we'll cut an LD spell or something.
Wow.
I know.
It takes a lot of heart to
it does. To admit it out loud, and then it's even harder to even do it.
All right.
Despise the Appetite for Brains. And this one's a little more interchangeable, where you could say, like, Inquisition, Duress.
Right. You've got 5 spots.
Ostracize.
You've got, 3 spots or 4 spots for single black discard spells. Which ones of the options do you play?
And I think at one point in time I played Despise. I ended up cutting it. And then, actually, a while after Avacyn, I think I finally added Appetite.
Yeah.
And I've been
pretty
I wouldn't say nothing but impressed. I've been very impressed by what Appetite for Brains does. And I think a lot of that comes off the Exile.
I mean, the exiling is good, but I think, like, the fact that almost every deck is going to have targets to hit with it in a lot of cases. Like, even a card like Despise, right? Like, creatures or planeswalkers are two, like, very prevalent things in Cube. Like, there's not a ton of planeswalkers, but they're all very good, so they're all going to see play. And, you know, there's just a ton of creatures. But, like, there are plenty of control-y blue-white, mono-white decks that don't have a lot of, like, creatures in them. Like, we play 3 or 4 dragon-y kind of guys, and that's it. Elish Norn, whatever.
And that's really my problem with Despise, is that maybe this is a my cube problem, and maybe it's a scenario where the control decks with the planeswalkers are just that. It's not creature planeswalker decks where you're going to find, like, the MTGO cube, you're going to see every deck has creatures.
Yeah.
A lot of creatures. And those decks will sometimes be lucky enough to have planeswalkers, so Despise is way more online.
Any of those kind of cards, whiffing with them is just the worst. Like,
I mean, it's not the worst. I mean, one of the arguments I make for Appetites of Brains is I'm playing an aggressive black deck.
Right.
I've probably had plays turns 1 through 3. If I'm doing it right, I'm going to win a game over. I'm finally, maybe I'm on the play. I've had, one drop. Let's say you do nothing. Turn 2, you're going to play a Wretched Anurid. Turn 3, you're going to play an Undead Gladiator. These are not optimal, but you're doing things. You're applying pressure to the board.
Yeah,
you're on the play, and
after.
Yeah, on your turn 4. Because that's the thing about Appetite. It's not an opening hand kind of play.
No, like, it's one of the, like, kind of covert 4-drop plays. Like, it's a 1-drop that you don't want to play on turn 1.
It's disguised as a 1-mana spell.
Right.
But what it really is
like a turn 4 play alongside
and then clears the way.
else.
I mean, and that's one of the huge ways where you kind of get a little bit of virtual card advantage. You kind of get, you see all the angles in that instance where, let's say you Appetite your opponent on your turn 4, and you brick. Because that's the thing we're afraid of doing. We're afraid of it missing. Well, what have you learned? What can they possibly be doing? How are they interacting with your board? What can you do? Because, again, as the aggressive black player, hopefully you have a lot of ways to interact with any spells your opponent is going to cast that are 3 or less.
Yeah. And it's like, if you whiff with Appetite on, like, say, turn 4 or 5, like, when you're getting into, like, the phase where they could be casting cards that Appetite hits, if you whiff, sweet. That means they don't have any, like, haymakers to throw back at your little zombies.
That's exactly my argument for it.
Like,
I mean, sure, 1 out of 20 times or whatever, they're like, nothing. Okay, cool. Attack you, draw Wrath of God, and you're like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I mean,
everything else that's going on. You can now make your sequence of plays from the turns after a lot better from there.
Yeah,
this is a strangely clear Appetite for me.
Yeah,
it's again, maybe this is just a my cube kind of problem to have. But Despise,
I like Appetite a lot
Despise
more.
not so much.
I like Appetite.
All right.
Next one.
Vendetta v Snuff Out. Interesting.
This one's close because I don't like either of them.
It's
we just have
it's close in the way that you don't want to play them.
Right. Like, which of these cards do I like the least?
Snuff Out was in Cube for a very long time.
Pretty much forever.
By the time it came out of Cube, it felt like this dusted relic that no one
ever wanted or played. They're just like, oh, it's Snuff Out, cool.
Because every time I would draft it in my deck, and every time I was like, oh, Dark Banishing, let's do this, I'd be playing against the aggressive deck, and I would never want to take the damage.
You never want to pay the life?
And I would never be in a set of circumstances where I could just kind of like 4 mana it. I mean, I'd rather have a Spite Malice in my hand like almost any day of the week, which seems weird.
It's just, I mean, Vendetta is, it's 1 mana, it's speed removal, but, like, you just get hit in the face so goddamn hard by it if you're killing anything worthwhile. And, like, Snuff Out,
I think I'd take Vendetta here pretty much 8 days a week.
Again, I don't want either of these cards.
It's not about that.
I know. I guess I take Vendetta. Ugh. God.
I mean, just look at it this way. What scenarios do you see yourself snuffing things out and being happy about it?
If I'm paying...
Noble Hierarchs, Fauna Shamans, not Blade Splicers.
Merfolk Looters.
Merfolk Looters, but not Azure Mages?
No, fuck that card.
That
card didn't do dick.
But yeah, those are times when, maybe it works into your kind of your overall curve, the plan of your hand and your deck, that you could snuff something out on life only, and also make your 2-drop or your 3-drop, where even the 1 cost on Vendetta sets you back so far.
Right, it's like
It disrupts your whole plan.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think that's the best argument for snuff out, but it's still kind of so circumstantial against all these like real aggressive decks where they're laying the beats on you.
Right. All right. Next matchup.
So I'm calling that a winner for Vendetta, but I'm not like super happy about it.
Yeah.
I wish there were more scenarios where snuff out was better. So here we have Phyrexian Rager versus Undead Gladiator.
Undead Gladiator is a fan favorite of mine.
I think a lot of it kind of comes down to the way your cube is constructed. Because I know a lot of cubes don't run into Gladiator, and I don't fault them for that. I think that it's just, it's too slow for a lot of deck, or a lot of cubes.
Like, Rager's always like a good little value guy. Drawing a card, good. He blocks. He holds equipment, like, woohoo, that's fun. But, like, Undead Gladiator, A, is a zombie, mildly relevant. B, 3 power for 3, way better if you're trying to be aggressive.
Right.
It trades up better.
Right.
The fact that it's a win condition into itself, because it's so hard to deal with, and, like, it plays as the Black Compulsion. Like,
true. That is something that's important to point out to players that are not familiar with Undead Gladiator.
Like, being able to just, like, I've got nothing going on my upkeep, my opponent doesn't have anything, spin, 2, 3, even 4 times in your upkeep is really good. Especially if you're looking for, like, something specific. You've got, like, some bomby win condition you're looking for or whatever.
I mean, I have a personal love affair with Undead Gladiator. I think one of the ways that, like, black-white control decks get a little more reach is in a lot of games, at any given time, you could have a 3-power threat on the board.
Yeah.
Because you could turn lands 7 through 10 into 3/1s.
Yeah.
That said, I like Phyrexian Rager. I think if I played more cards like Birthing Pod or...
Phyrexian Rager is so unexciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting, but it's not about it being exciting. It's about being a role player that you could pump a fist for when it plays that role effectively.
I guess.
It's hard to hate on. You can't hate on Phyrexian Rager.
Undead Gladiator is just so... I don't know. I think I have this, like, obsession with, like, sweet plays in Cube. So, like, anything that's vanilla I don't like as much as, like, cards that are super flashy.
But you could make sweet plays with Phyrexian Rager. Like, I have cast it against you, blocked, like, some inbound gonna kill me thing. That extra card was relevant in a way.
Yeah.
Like, this scenario has happened. We've played with these cards enough.
I mean, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're anyone that runs Cabal Coffers in your cube, and the Cabal Coffers is a thing, you should definitely have it at Gladiator.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's good. Again, hopefully, as more support and/or cards interact like Gravecrawler, again, Undead Gladiator turns these things back on. You have Undead Gladiator, and you could even discard Gravecrawler, get it back, keep the army continually coming from the grave.
All right, next one.
I mean, I'm calling it Undead Gladiator.
I agree with you.
I understand why smaller cubes, this isn't even a debate, neither of these cards are really anywhere to be found, but that's my man.
Once you're expanded, you have a little more wiggle room.
Oh, yeah, and you can do cool stuff, like I said.
Oh, yeah.
Your swamps turn into 3/1s. Sword of Temptation Dungeon, guys.
I'm interested to see where you stand on this one.
To me, it's another question of, is it an aggressive blue deck? Is it a control blue deck? How do these things work? Is two toughness?
I feel like this is a 2 toughness versus
toughness.
3 toughness.
Strictly.
Pretty.
It's not even a 2 power versus 3 power conversation. It's a 2 toughness versus 3 toughness only.
Well, I mean, Sower only has 2 power, but you're very likely gaining more than 1 power worth of creatures by taking it.
Okay.
Like, yeah, Dungeon Geist is bigger, like, if they were to fight heads up. But, like, Sower plus the bro he grabs to hang out with you is probably better if you're in, like, a pure race than just Dungeon Geist. And it's like, tapping a guy down is good, but neither of these guys are really all that thrilling to me. And Dungeon Geist just lives longer, I feel like.
Yeah, Dungeon Geist live longer.
Sora always dies.
Sword.
If you get to attack with the guy you stole with Sora Temptation, you're doing so well for yourself.
Yes.
Like you are thrilled.
You probably could have won that game of Magic with any number of other cards.
Like almost any other blue card in queue.
Yeah, Sower got cut a while back, and have had no problem with that. Dungeon Geist, strangely enough, got cut after Sower Temptation, and I think it's again kind of in that realm where it's like, well, blue could be aggressive, blue could attack. Like even if Dungeon Geist comes into play and gets killed immediately, it still tapped a guy. Like it had that effect. It pestermited something, so we can continue attacking. We're doing this thing. We're attacking.
Yeah.
Not doing it for you?
No.
Not doing it for you?
Sour always dies. Dungeon Geist dies a lot, but not as often.
I mean, Sower, yeah.
That's really what it feels
I
like.
still think it wins here, but I think it's another great classic example of blue aggro. Why are you never going to be a thing? Not never, but...
It could be a thing, it just requires so much of a revamp of blue and cutting all the good cards.
Which we never want to do. Blue is good. Blue doesn't need to be revamped. It doesn't need to be worked over.
Yeah. Alright, next fight.
Yes, a Kamigawa showdown.
The
of
Kamigawa
ages.
legend off.
It's the Kaiga v Moloku showdown. What are your feelings?
So, I was a big Kaiga fan for a long time because that card is just really hard to beat.
Kaiga?
Yeah, because, like, it's this giant dude, and if they ever deal with it, you take their best guy, and it's, like, this uphill battle. But as time went on, I kind of felt like Kaiga is just another dragon in Cube. Like, his effect is good, like, when he dies, but...
Well, that's the thing. When
a
Kaiga was really good, the landscape was littered with dragons.
Yeah.
So he could be one that you cast and win with, because the game would go on long enough.
Yeah.
Or he could be one that you cast, it quickly died, and then you took your opponent's dragon.
Right, it was literally just, like, Bucking
Yeah.
and Hellkite fights all over the place.
Right, which is kind of
Rift.
cool in a way.
Like, you know, all the... Just every 6/6 for 6
Like
flyer.
a Croesus would show up from time to time.
It was just giant...
Haymakers!
Yeah, Haymaker fights in every color. And, I mean... I do really like Moloku because I think she plays great offense and defense. You know, she's...
This one clearly Moloku.
Yeah.
And this isn't so much like Moloku's clearly than Kaiga. It's much like, how sad is Kaiga now?
He's just so unimpressive.
I know.
And that effect is so powerful. And
for a long time I thought it was like, oh, this must be a My Cube thing. It must be like, there aren't enough creatures running around. Too many times Kaiga dies and the board is empty. Like, there's just nothing going on.
Yeah.
But it's not even an issue of that. I mean, we've played plenty of... I mean, even other cubes where there are creatures and things are going on. And people will go around, over, through this thing, and it just doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Moloku, you know, being able to buy a million years with Moloku is great. Anytime you get to do anything powerful in terms of interactions with lands...
It's strangely satisfying when you can, like, have Moloku, look at the game...
Like,
and then just put all your lands in your hand.
Yeah, just pick everything up and just
be
go
like,
down.
It's my turn? Okay.
Okay, attack for 8. Attack for 8 again.
8.
Like, well, whatever, you know, like, you just, like, you kind of sit there, block. What's your life total? Okay. Whoop! And just sunder yourself, and then just kill them. Like, Moloku swings both ways.
Clear
Very
Moloku.
well.
Clear Moloku. Poor Kaiga.
Yeah, poor Kaiga. R.I.P. his time in Cube. But...
Spell Pierce Seal of Removal. This is interesting. This is maybe a personal preference. Maybe people don't really even think about this one in my mind.
This one's close because the cards are so different.
The cards are very
like
different.
it's harder to be like comparing them heads up.
To me, this is about how to make early blue cards be effective, because blue doesn't really have a lot that goes on below 2 at all.
Yeah.
And Spell Pierce is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you know, you can really tap low, or early in the games, like your opponents aren't going to resolve Survival of the Fittest. But, you know, depending on if your cube is more creature-oriented than spell-oriented, a card like Seal of Removal, to me, is really excellent, because for blue, every mana counts. Every card counts, every turn counts. So being able to be open on a Seal of Removal, pass a turn to your opponent, and then being able to have counter magic up turns 2 through 5 or something.
Yeah, and
can
still
go a
be
really
able to
long
affect
way.
the board if need be.
Yeah, still be able to like call that shot. I like Seal a lot. I could definitely see making this switch towards Seal in the future. We run Spell Pierce right now.
I'm down with that. I think I like Seal Removal more as well. Like, Spell Pierce is fine, but it's like Seal Removal, there's not that much bounce in Cube.
And bounce is so good.
I know, this is what I'm saying. Like,
It's like strangely underrated.
well, because it's like a lot of bounce is, unless it draws a card, is kind of like card disadvantage. You know, you're not permanently dealing with a threat, so you're trading tempo for cards,
Right.
and like people don't always want to do that. And it's just like Spell Pierce is fine. I'm just never like I'm never super stoked on Spell Pierce.
It's not the same feeling as force spiking something.
No, it's definitely not. And you can force spike guys, which is way more relevant for blue.
It's not spell pierce versus force spike.
No, I know, but that you brought up.
I'm just saying, like, you know, being able to use that 1 mana counterspell.
Yeah.
And have it be effective.
Yeah.
I could really see.
As mentioned by the chat, playing well with Sun Titan.
Everything plays well with Sun Titan.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. I would really like to make a move. You know, in the bigger picture, if we start bringing in seals, then we start thinking enchantresses. We start thinking of all these other
real deep
plans and packages, and
you just go see how far the rabbit hole goes.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh man, could Verdant Enchantresses be good in a vacuum? Could you just have that?
You just have Grey Ogre. Would that be good enough?
Grey Ogre.
Oh, the Yavimaya Enchantress.
Yeah. Oh, Yavimaya.
Like the other enchantresses.
I'm sorry if that isn't the first enchantress to spring to my mind.
Enchantress of Presence.
Right. That doesn't attack or block.
I know.
Yeah, it works great with Sun Titan. No, we had seal removal with Sun Titan in recently. That was really cool.
All right. I like seal here.
Yeah, you know, I can see making this change.
I'm down with that.
And I don't, again, with blue, the velveted red roped VIP cards only color in Cube, it's really hard to make moves like this. So this, you know, especially with low casting cost stuff, this is kind of your only opportunity to have that conversation. And I'd love to see what seal removal can do. I just really want to use it on Mangara.
That's also gross.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's great.
These are things I want to do.
Yeah. Preferably on lands.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah, that was implied.
Next one.
Overgrown Battlement v. Wall of Blossoms.
I mean, I don't like Overgrown Battlement at all. There's not. I mean, that's. I mean, I'm making that pretty clear.
You don't like Vine Trellis?
No.
You don't like Vine Trellis's sweeter...
Slightly better brother? There are so few walls. Like,
here's a scenario where we'd be cutting one for another.
For another, right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Overgrown Battlement, you know, it taps for mana, that's cool. It blocks, that's cool, I guess. But, like, you're never really putting together, like, the massive ramp, like, Wall of Roots, Overgrown Battlement. You're playing whites, you got Wall of Omens in there, like...
We could change it to Vine Trellis. I mean, the point is that Battlement is strictly superior. I know those are dangerous words to say.
Right.
But it really feels like it's strictly superior here.
I like Wall of Blossoms. Like, Wall of Omens is always sweet. I mean, maybe it's just because it's in white.
Any card that draws a card is always sweet, because it could be the sweetest card ever underneath the card.
No, but it's also, like, the fact that, like, in most of my white, non-white meaning aggressive decks, like, in white control-ish decks, having an early wall to put up blocker for things, you know, Stormkirk Noble, Goblin Guy, Rakdos Cackler, and on and on and on. Like, having a way to just kind of like, okay, I don't even lose a card, and I get to just eat up a ton of your time trying to get through this thing.
So what I've learned is that O2s for 4 that do stuff, you're into. But the question here is just replacing itself, or potentially leading to bigger, badder things, what's better?
I would rather just have a draw card. I would rather draw a card than tap for a mana.
Because you might find something sweet, or because what's part of your plan? Like, what's your thing?
I mean, like, I know it's obviously going to be like deck dependent or whatever.
Yeah,
but
and here we're looking about evaluating cards that are best for the queue overall. What's going to lead to the most
Green just has so few ways
positive scenarios for who's ever playing these cards.
Green has so few ways to draw cards in general. Like, there's Harmonize. There's a few, you know, Orin Viper. There's a few other kind of effects in Green.
Sylvan Library.
Sylvan Library. I mean, yeah. But there's, like, Wall of Blossoms, you know, being able to cycle in Green and have, like, a speed bump. Like, even in a ramp, if you're at, like, a green, whatever, tooth and nail, like a giant guy, kind of giant mana deck.
Okay.
Wall of Blossoms is still sweet. Because you're going to buy a bunch of time against the aggressive decks and dig deeper into your, like, crazy late game bombs.
I'm not saying Wall of Blossoms is a bad card.
Okay.
I'm saying, okay, I guess I will whittle my argument all the way down to, I like Overgrown Battlement because you can cast it on turn 2 you can block all these incoming elephants and smaller, and you have the option of choosing to ramp it up into something. So for all those tooth decks, all those big mana decks, it's like, okay, it's time to turn this 0-4 sideways and cast my Titan, cast my Plow Under, cast my things that do stuff. And all the times I'm not doing that, I'm effectively gaining life.
Yeah.
Which to me is in essence drawing a card. Maybe it's drawing 4 cards. Maybe I've gained 8 life, I've accelerated a 5 or a 6 drop, and those things are better.
But I mean, like, Wild Blossoms in that situation would gain you the exact same amount of life, and it draws you an actual card, not a virtual card.
That maybe you wish that card was a Minix.
Who knows? Maybe.
All right. We are split
we're
down the
split
middle on this
decision on
one.
this one, yeah.
This is.
I like Wild Blossoms.
This is a double KO.
This might also be like a mental magic thing for me because it says draw a card in it. So.
Yeah, I guess.
All right.
Again, we could add Bandage to Cube.
Here's a good one.
Is this a good one? Birthing Pod v Oath of Druids?
I mean, I think this is one where popular. I feel like a lot of popular opinion is going to go the way of Birthing Pod, and I disagree with it.
This to me, I think, talking about cards that are great examples of cube building and cube development. I mean, you
have to build a lot around Birthing Pod.
Right.
It's hard.
I feel like I fought long and hard to make Birthing Pod a thing. Like it being constructed is a lot of fun.
And the thing is it's not even enough to build cube out to support it well. It also has to show up properly in draft,
and then not have any link in the chain ever missing during the games you're playing.
Like,
it's just
the stars have to align to such a great degree to make Birthing Pod an awesome plan. Like, if you're occasionally just like trading a value guy for a slightly better value guy, that's okay.
But again, those are what cube creatures are. I mean, playing a pod deck in standard or modern or whatever is like playing a cube deck because all the guys are value guys. They have virtual card advantage built into them.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
But
like Birthing Pod is a card that makes sense in cube.
Sure.
It just in execution
it falls short.
Right.
And Oath of Druids is the one man plan. Like,
Oath of Druids is so much fun.
It's fun. It's something that doesn't like. It's a unique. I'm a big fan of unique effects in cube. Like, I like cards
strangely could be symmetrical effects.
Yeah, like it's obviously never fair, but it could be kind of fair maybe.
That's the thing, because enough people play Magic, enough people cube, that an Oath of Druids game could play out where it's like, okay, well, I've got Juggernaut. Go. Like, okay, well, I've got Wall. Oh, go. Well, I'll play a guy, I'll play that Huntmaster. Like, alright, sweet, go.
Yeah.
Oh, I hit a Blades Blazer. Like, some creatures go back and forth, and it's strangely interesting how they keep hitting the battlefield.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's just, I've got Oath of Druids, now I've got an Eldrazi, or whatever, and that's sweet. Like,
I love those decks.
Oath is a lot of fun. Oath is something that not a lot of other cards do in Cube.
No other card does this.
And, like, it also, like, Oath of Druids requires a very, very specific strategy in draft. Because as soon as you take Oath of Druids, your plan, alright, creatures are off the menu, unless they cost 10 mana or more. You have to plan it out to such a great degree while drafting. And like even with Birthing Pod where you have to do something similar, it's so much harder to be like, okay, now I need guys that cost 2. And then I'll find, okay, I found a 4-drop. All right, now I need 3s so I can link them all together. And now I gotta find a 5.
And it could be fun to draft that. It's strangely constrictive and overly frustrating and aggravating when it doesn't happen. A lot more than like, oh, my opponent oathed into Emrakul, or well, we don't have Emrakul, but into Ulamog, like that was a big thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a polymorph fan. That seems like way too much work.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's a blue card, so good luck.
Right.
Get in line.
It's hard to get yourself tokens. Especially in blue.
Oh, like if you're gonna do polymorph, like to the
your play is like polymorph
to the cheatiest cheat way.
Polymorph into an Eldrazi.
Like Darksteel Brood, activate my Darksteel Brood. Whoa! I even get to keep my Darksteel Brood.
Like, yeah.
Coming to a 2,000 card cube near us. Colony Garden, Darksteel Brood, polymorph.
2,000. That is already ambitious for.
You're gonna get
For
2,000.
Darksteel Brute, that's an ambitious.
Oh, I think
number.
you're saying for polymorph. I think 2,000 cards is pretty ambitious for polymorph.
Yeah.
He's kind of removal.
Yeah.
He does say destroy a guy. Any
I
guy.
guess. All right. Next one.
Let's move on. Mold Shambler versus Ernam Jin. I feel insulted because I love Ernam Jin so much.
I think this comes down to it's almost not between these cards. It's that if you're trying to make Wildfire a thing in your cube,
I don't even think it's necessarily
you
about.
need
I don't
5 toughness guys.
I don't think it's about Wildfire.
I think
It's about aggressive green creatures, which is actually on this side of the
Yeah.
thing is different. Aggressive green creatures versus. See, I'm going the wrong way again. Bramble crunch type effects on guys. You can ramp
creeping
into.
molding.
Yeah, creeping mold. But I
dudes.
guess he hits planeswalkers, which is pretty cool.
Creeping mold shambler. I just like Ernie's awesome because he's a throwback. You know, I got old school respect for Ernie. He plays well with a lot of other cards. Mold Shambler is real slow.
I know. I'm insulted by this versus. I'm taking Ernie, and I love destroying lands. I'm taking Ernie 8
I'm
days
taking
a week.
Ernie because I like destroying lands too, and when you have Ernie, you want to destroy lands.
Ernageddon.
That's right.
Scroll Nest versus Genju of the Cedars.
This one's weird.
Huh, this is weird.
I don't know how to feel about this.
I mean, they're both enchant lands.
I have a weird. I don't know.
I mean, Scroll's Nest is kind of a mix between.
Scroll's Nest is really like you maybe get to overwhelm your opponent in the long game.
It's a strange control card, and it's also
Yeah.
like kind of a reach card for those green creature decks
It's like,
where it's like
it's almost like a weird,
attacking from a different angle.
It's like a weird green build your own Mazavith.
It can be that.
Like, but
How Jade Mage was like a pseudo pacifism or
Right.
fog in more recent Limited.
Obviously-
You should try to bring it forward.
obviously sweet with opposition.
Yeah,
Like, that's
we
clear.
get it. We get it.
Anything that is like like Garrett Cloudspeaker, Criderhoof Behemoth, you know, anything that pumps out your guys, the Scroll Nest is sweet. Genju is cool in the sense that it's it's really aggressive.
Yeah,
And I think that right now the way green is in cube green feels really mid-rangey.
it. I'm gonna say
Like,
it
we're
just,
not
I'm
playing-
gonna say it just isn't overly aggressive to Genju of the Cedars quality.
We're not playing Jungle Lion. We're not playing Pouncing Jaguar.
Right.
We're not
Those
playing-
cards are just bad.
Tattermunch Maniac.
So bad.
So like,
well, actually not less bad, but you can pay red.
right. But I mean, like, I think if your green build was slanted in a very aggressive way, Genji becomes better because it lets you turn, especially excess lanes, into 4/4 beaters, which is sweet. But you kind of have to really angle green in a way to make that good. And like Squirrel Nest obviously isn't very aggressive, but it plays well with a lot of other things, and it's still fine in a lot of green.
I mean,
decks.
I'm gonna defend Squirrel's Nest, and I'm gonna give it to Squirrel Nest here, mostly because it's a way a green deck can come from a different direction and find a win condition.
I mean, I would like to maybe see Genju. I honestly have not.
Plus, like Genju would be kind of, no, it doesn't really. What am I thinking? It's not the Zendikons. It's the reverse Zendikon.
Right.
So here you get the Genju back, right?
Yeah, you do not get the
you get to
land
keep
back.
attacking. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like the Zendikons where you get the. It's like an anti-LD thing versus like an all-the-time creature
Right.
thing.
And I mean, like, it seems kind of sweet. Like, I kind of want to see Genju in action.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't remember how this even came up that these were the cards in question about the enchant land category.
Do not question the fights.
I'm not questioning the fights. I'm watching the fights. I'm enjoying the fights.
Let's see what the next one is.
In a different world, in a different cube, Genji the Cedars does something for me that I'm excited about. Don't get me wrong. In my cube at this time, I want green to have multiple angles of attack. Squirrel's Nest is where I want to be.
All right, next one.
Riftbolt versus Volt Charge.
So this could actually be like a fight of pick a 3-mana red spell that does 3 damage.
But the thing about Riftbolt is that it's often a 1-mana spell, and that's really what's selling it for me. It's not like
It's
the
not
3-mana sorcery lightning bolt is a thing. It's the fact that
It's not that often that you are suspending it for one.
I think it's more often than you think.
I felt like, okay, this is obviously a bit of an aside, but I felt like I was madnessing Fiery Temper more often than I was suspending Rift Bolt when both of those cards were in cube.
That might be true.
So, like, if you want, like, the 3 that can be a 1, why wouldn't you just have Fiery Temper?
Because
and I don't think you want either.
Because a lot of the red aggressive decks, and the problem with Rift Bolt, I really think, is that it could just realistically be Lava Spike. Because anytime you're suspending it, your opponent isn't, like, headlonging guys board for you. They're not like, you're not like, okay, on turn 2,
suspend Rift Bolt,
play a 1-drop, suspend Rift Bolt.
Haha!
Go, like, and your opponent's like,
you got me, here's my 3-drop.
Not even, like, oh, I guess I'll play a guy.
Like, I think, like, Volcharge is one of many cards that do this almost exact same thing, like, 3 mana for 3 damage and a bonus of some variety. You know, Wither.
Hey, is that Brent?
Yeah.
Hey, Brent.
Hi, Brent.
Hey, Brent.
You can't tell on the audio, but we're waving.
Yeah, the internet seems to think that I'm friends with Chumley, which is pretty funny.
That happens a lot. Autographs are $15, by the way.
You do get a headshot, with it. He'll stand outside the Podstars sign and do this. We can make that happen.
I'll Photoshop that.
You don't even need to Photoshop.
I like.
At essence, this is a battle of the garbage. I don't really want to play either of these cards. I would take Rift Bolt over Volcharge.
So we had talked about this before. Like, this kind of argument came up because we had talked about Proliferate in Cube and whether or not it would do anything.
Right, and I want
wanted to try it.
I want Proliferate to do something. I mean, Tezzeret's. I mean, if you went the full package, Tezzeret's Gambit, Volcharge, Contagion Clasp.
I like Tezzeret's Gambit.
I like Tezzeret's Gambit.
Contagion Clasp is currently in Cube.
I like Contagion Clasp.
And I'm fine with Volcharge. Like,
it's a spell.
The Proliferate,
it deals the damage.
The Proliferate comes up surprisingly often. You know, Planeswalkers, random creatures that have +1 or -1 counters on them. Vivid lands.
You can't even, like, dick the guy who's playing Rift Bolt by Volcharging and then putting
a time counter on it?
Not how that works.
That would be awesome.
Again, my whole argument, and I can't believe we've already talked for this long on these two stupid cards, is 3 mana for 3 damage burn spell. It doesn't wow me. Like, there isn't enough proliferation out there to make me be like,
no,
this is a thing. While Rift Bolt could just as easily be Lava Spike in Cube and be good, maybe better, maybe worse. But I think that's really where the comparison is.
I think the answer might actually be, like,
Lava Spike? Is Lava Spike?
No, I was going to say option C of another one of these, like, exact same spells that does something different that we haven't really thought about.
Maybe. I mean, again, we've already brought up Fiery Temper and Lava Spike, which are fine. Again, I'm taking Rift Bolt here. I'm not happy about it because we're not playing either of them.
I'm going Volcharge. I'm not thrilled about it, but, you know, Proliferate can be cool.
Yeah, Rift Bolt is a fine turn-on play. It's also known as Lava Spike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah. Turn-on Glorcan Rampage or whatever.
Stormblood Berserker.
Ah, that's what it is. I already got the new one already mixed up.
All right.
So our next on the docket here, we have Demon Fire v Devil's Play.
This one's a little more interesting.
Yeah, I do like this one. It's surprising to me how rarely Demon Fire is doing its thing these days.
Really? I mean, I like Demon Fire over Devil's Play, if only because removing guys from the game is good.
And that's the nice thing that's not the Hellbent part of Demon Fire.
Yeah.
You get to exile with it, and I think for a really long time, Banefire. Yes, we do run Banefire.
Banefire is very, very
Banefire is kind of like...
And I think Banefire
is the keystone of the clear, like, I'm the red deck that's big
the
red.
Best one.
Big red or not big red, I'm playing as the blue mage.
Yeah.
I have an answer.
And, like, I like Demon Fire because occasionally, you know, you just get Hellbent and you throw a bunch of burn at their face and they can't win.
I agree.
Like,
that is the best case
scenario. The Hellbent wording on Demon Fire is surprisingly relevant, and I'm never like super excited to flash, like, play an X-Spell and then try and flash it back.
If it was just Disintegrate, where you Disintegrate berries, but it doesn't remove. No, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without the Hellbent part, it's just Disintegrate.
Yeah, and that was in Cube for a long time.
No, it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't. When we do Retro Day, I will prove to you that it was not.
Okay.
Either way, we're talking a lot about Demon Fire. We haven't really touched on Devil's Play. And Devil's Play is one of those cards where if I'm the aggressive red player, I can cast it, and I don't feel like I've thrown away my big Haymaker spell.
Yeah.
Like, I can deal with a problem that's in my way early in the game, and if the game draws out for really long, I still have a way to get in those last 2 points of damage against my opponent. It almost feels like more of a safety net card.
See, that's interesting, because I think of Devil's Play differently. Like, I see Demon Fire as, like, the last hurrah of your aggressive red deck. Like, that's what you end your chain of spells with.
Okay.
Like, that, ideally. And I feel like Devil's Play is kind of, like, largely a win condition unto itself. Like,
So it's like,
especially...
it's like hit you for 8,
it's like...
untap, hit you for 4.
In, like, ramp decks. You know, like, green or... with, like, a lot of artifact mana. You're just like, okay, I've got all this mana, like, Hadouken you for... 8 or 9 or whatever, untap, do it again. Like, and you just jam them for a ton of damage doing that.
That seems like it could be good against control as well.
Yeah. I think it's just they're slotted into, they work better in different decks. Like, if you're trying to be like...
I just don't know about Demon Fire anymore. I used to really like it, and it just seems now like there's all these times where you just get... It's like you can't get there's a card you can't get out of your hand.
Right, you just like keep drawing the second land.
Exactly.
Like you just
like how frustrating is that? But when you have Devil's Play, you're totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Because let's say you have a problem facing you down, or it's just like you can just casually dome them for 6 or something.
Right. I mean, like being able to like burn it for removal and then like later like finish your opponents off with it is good. I don't know. I'm really not sure which direction I want to go on this one. I like Demon Fire.
Currently, we run Demon Fire.
We could try Devil's Play.
Yeah, no, I'm really into it. I mean, a lot of people give me shit for not running Devil's Play because we run like Fireball.
Yeah.
But Fireball to me is nostalgia, Magic History,
and
etc.
the splitting.
That happens so often.
Oh yeah.
I've hit multiple squirrels with it before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a Devil's Play. I think it's gonna find its way.
I think next update we'll remember this and we're gonna. All right, next one.
Cunning Spark Mage versus Fire Imp. I like this showdown a lot.
I did too. I suggested this initially.
I'll tell you who could eat a fatty for not being a May, and that's Fire Imp.
Also, not going to the face. Fuck you, Fire Imp.
Well, Gitu Slinger is still a card.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, like...
I agree with you. It would not be super overpowered.
No.
If
Fire Imp is not making huge waves if it's going to the dome. I like Cunning Spark Mage a lot more. I like pinging in Cube. I think that there's not a lot of it, and when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, you're still doing unblockable damage to an opponent.
Cunning Spark Mage looking at it like a 1/1 unblockable creature is another nice way to kind of look at it.
And
with haste.
Right, it's a 1/1 hasted unblockable, and occasionally you just like totally destroy certain decks and opponents. Well, just like hitting mana guys with it. And
no, that's really good.
Fucking up little green guys and stuff like that.
Now, it's funny, in Cube, probably two years and more ago, there was like nothing that did damage.
No.
Because it was like everything is 2 or more.
Yeah.
Grim Lavamancer and the Mana Dork, so the only guys that have 1 toughness. So why bother playing a card that deals damage?
But like Jessica Warrior Adept is like a great example. Like of like 1 damage being relevant. Like she's a fine attacker, obviously, but I use her shooting ability really often.
That's why she plays Sweet D.
She does play Sweet D.
Yeah. She's the Paul Coffey of... no, I'm going to give it up there. No one who's listening right now knows what a Paul Coffey is.
We could alter Jessica to have blonde hair and like be like Sweet D from It's Always Sunny.
That would actually be pretty... That would actually... I am into this.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to need some mock-ups for that later.
So,
end of the day...
Cunning Spark Mage.
I'm Cunning Spark Mage and I'm really into it. And there's the dream scenario. The dream scenario is...
Basilisk Collar.
Is the Basilisk Collar.
And just going
and that's like, a
slightly pre-cobbled constructed.
It's a Magic Pro Tour history moment,
yeah.
As where the dream with Fire Imp is you kill something.
Kill a guy.
And then you maybe attack and deal some damage.
Maybe. Alright, next one.
Jessica does, in fact, have haste. We have Pillar of Flame v Searing Spear in the battle of the could these red burn spells be any more boring to talk
Right, this
about?
is like the least exciting one of these.
Would you like to deal 3 damage in instant speed?
I don't
or
even
would you like
care.
to deal 2 damage?
I literally do not care which one of these cards
Are there enough guys you need to RFG?
I don't care.
You don't even care?
Like, Pillar of Flame, like, living the dream with Pillar of Flame is hitting kitchen finks with it.
Yeah.
And, like, living the dream with Searing Spear is your opponent is at 3 life.
Yeah.
And, like,
Neither
who
of these,
the fuck cares?
Neither of these dreams...
I don't even care. Why is this a fight?
I don't know. All these dreams have pants. I don't really...
Like...
If you only had room for one in your cube, that's the whole point. If you
I
only
would-
had room for one in your cube, what do you play?
I would either play the one that was closer to me where I was currently sitting, because it would require less effort to put it in cube, or I would just flip a coin.
You know, if you're going to make a mockery of this...
I'm sorry, like, I cannot get in any way excited for
Look,
this.
mo damage, mo better. That's how I look at it,
Sure.
okay? Alright, we play Searing Spear. We always say, damn, why isn't this Incinerate? But we move on with our lives.
Fine by me.
People that play Pillar of Flame in their cubes, why? That's really, I think from this, that's my question. Is Red so void of good cards that you're like, you know what? Let's slow Shock down a little bit.
I need Shitty Shock.
Yeah, let's slow it down. Let's make a deal with 1% of the cards in the cube. Then I like it.
Yeah.
You know, that being said, we ran Carbonize for quite a while, but that instant speed effect mattered a lot.
Yeah.
Again, if the Magma Spray thing, yes, is instant. I'd actually like Magma Spray probably better than Pillar, for the fact that it's instant speed. This is going to do things you're not going to think about.
But it doesn't hit players.
Right, which is not even in the.
And as a result, doesn't hit planeswalkers.
Yeah, let's move
All right.
on.
Next, hopefully more interesting fight. Ooh, it is.
Is it?
I think it is. I think this is a much.
Man, why didn't we mock up a Kakusha one? Because it's time to finally shit on the Kamigawa Dragons.
They're
I think
pretty.
we finally come to that.
Their
time.
day has come. I think.
Yeah.
And they're really all, for how busted they were when they got printed. They have really gotten left in the dust by the improving card quality.
Many years ago, I would cast a Kaiga, and I would be happy to let it die, and I would steal my opponent's.
At one point, 4 of the 5 Kamigawa Dragons were in queue.
That was a very short time.
But I'm saying, like, that's
Ryusei was never really good, but he was there.
Like, Jugan never made it.
Well,
but,
obviously.
I mean, Yosai used to be sweet. It used to be like, that's like the awesome. This is like obviously pre-Sun Titan day,
It's
pre-Elish
sad-
Norn
It's
days.
sad times, really, because the recurring Nightmare Yosai lock
Is
a classic lock.
Oh yeah, and it is still. It's like a fine wine, ages well.
Sure.
But I mean, I really like Exalted. I like, being able to play it on the cheap, and
Its versatility, while not spectacular, and as more morph creatures find their way out of the cube as better cards are printed in Magic,
Yeah.
she also kind of loses value. She still has that option, but you're not going to find in a lot of your other dragons. Now, she is one of those weird cards where if you're playing for realsies, she doesn't have lifelink, so you can still die on the Bloxies with her,
Right.
which is a bit of a
But
liability.
it's also sweet because if you give her lifelink, then you can
Then
double
you
up.
go to double uptown.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could if you Basilisk Color that bitch up.
Oh yeah.
Or even locks it on Warhammer her, even if you're playing with the Mirrodin one.
Yeah. So I really like that. I like the life gain in Exalted. I like that it's more. You can play it early and flip it to be aggressive.
I mean,
You can-
again, this is not a matchup of the heavy hitters.
No.
This is not like
These are not like the All Stars in White.
amazing cube cards.
I just feel like, Exalted Age is going to fit into more decks. Life gain's more relevant than trying to lock people out.
And 1 out of 100 drafts, you're gonna play Morph. Someone's gonna think it's Gathen Raiders, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're not gonna Pillar of Flame it like they would have otherwise.
Right. Anytime you can get somebody with Morphin Cube, you are stoked.
You're
You're
playing against
thrilled.
a child who is younger than Morph.
Who also knows what the other Morph creatures are and makes play decisions based on what they could be.
I mean, we're down. How many Morph creatures are there even anymore?
Exalted?
I feel like when I started playing Cube, I mean, granted, I'm a huge fan of Onslaught Limited, so we were playing.
I can't wait for them to bring Morph back. I want that in next block. It's so much fun in Limited, like proper Limited.
It can be. Either way, let's move on.
All right, next
Either
way. Anyway,
Echo,
I like
Echo
Exalted.
Tracer, Daru Mender. Those were the loosest ones I played, and I
Yeah.
had reasons for them, and I liked them.
Yeah.
Silver Knight versus Soltari Priest. This one seems like elementary these days. The red decks are the ones that are coming at you. You're going to want to
Yeah.
be able to block.
I
If
feel
you
like this
can't
is
block,
an argument of like offense versus defense.
And even against the red decks, you can still
Be-
attack with Silver Knight.
Yeah, like Silver Knight just seems like the unblockability against every deck is not as good as the ability to block everything
It's like the spear job there.
in one deck.
Completely agree. Additionally, here, it should be noted that we're going with Silver Knight over Core Firewalker because First Strike is also pretty relevant
Yeah.
here. Now, the Double White Bears, while they are a dying breed, this is one of the few remaining ones just because of such an impact we can have against the red decks. It's kind of like why you'd ever play any spell that just kind of gains life.
And I mean, like, First Strike lets it fight against a lot of non-red guys and win.
Yeah, but it also means that it
It can-
just negate Blistering Firecat or
Yeah.
it's not even an issue of like, oh, well, Trample takes some. It's completely absorbs it. And again, the First Strike comes up a lot more than it would otherwise.
Yeah.
That's why we have that instead of Core Firewalker. But to me, I think you could make an argument with anyone who runs a cube out there that has a strong aggressive strategy. If you want to help white out and do it a favor, and you run Sultari Priest, switch it up to Silver Knight and do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Sacred Mesa versus Luminarch Ascension is our next one up here. Luminarch Ascension is a card that creates subgames.
It creates a very oftentimes impossible to play subgame for your opponent. There are certain decks that just cannot reliably deal you damage every turn to stop it from turning on.
So the question is that good?
Yeah.
Is it good enough?
No.
All
Although,
right.
I mean, this is one of those things where I'm not actually sure if I'm super thrilled with either of these cards. I have had Sacred Mesa once and never cast it because I never wanted to cast it and activate it.
Last week, I had an opponent play it on his turn 5 with one white source in play. I proceeded to untap DT for Strip Mine,
And just, yeah, that's mean.
punch his face in.
He didn't have any more Pegasus in play. He never committed Colossus to sacrifice.
So, currently we're running Sacred Mesa. Maybe it's a test. I don't know if it's a good test or a bad test.
Like, are either of these? I mean,
Brent seems to think it's terrible, and I do respect what Brent thinks and says.
I do too. What about just like going back to mobilization? Is that horrible?
Giving your Chameleon Colossus Vigilance would be fun.
That would be cool.
Maybe.
I mean, I think like
I
this.
think this kind of change out in Cube just came out of the necessity for Luminarch Ascension to do anything else. Luminarch Ascension was really good against the blue control decks that like to kind of jerk it for a really long time and then like cast Upheaval or something, which are fine, and those are still decks, and they're a lot of fun sometimes. But too often, they just kind of piss people off and don't do anything. So Luminarch Ascension was one of those kind of checks and balances systems where it was
Right. And it's just like
like, deal, bitch.
right, and then people would deal, bitch. And it's stupid.
And where Sacred Mesa was like, okay, well, we're holding strong on the Let's Play Crusade, Honor the Pure. Let's
Right.
give them a way to do it. And the control decks can kind of take advantage of it too. Play in the control deck, and eventually you just kind of overpower with, wow, wild Pegasuses. If you look at
Wild Pegasi.
Well, from the Mirage version,
Yeah,
a wild Pegasus token.
they're wild. Pegasus gone wild. All right, next one.
Ooh,
Battle of
the
the.
Vampire Lady Showdown.
Yeah.
It's the Olivia Voldaren versus Falconwrath Aristocrat one. I'm surprised this isn't a conversation that doesn't come up more often.
Yeah, I feel like
It's kind of
surprisingly-
strange that we don't have this argument more often.
Yeah, I mean, Olivia is one of the most disgusting cards I've ever seen in an actual limited format.
Yes.
Like, it's actually just vomit-inducing every time it hits the board.
Include both is not an outrageous
No,
concept.
There is certainly a valid argument to have both
One of
these
these days
cards.
when we go through and kind of like rate the guild cards, Rakdos will be one of the ones that's going to be real deep.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation on Twitter a lot in the past where, it's like, hey, take these 12 Rakdos cards, rank the top 6. And those are only the ones that'll make the cube.
Yeah.
I think if we were to, it's like right now we run Falconwrath Aristocrat. Been very happy with it. Kind of kicked myself for not including it earlier. Just that it's wrath, survival, it's flying, giant sulfuge effects have been really powerful. It doesn't need to have trample because it has flying.
Like, there are not a ton of flyers in black-red, especially aggressive ones, like, that you want to be, like...
Blazing Spectre.
Like, again,
Rakdos is so deep.
Rakdos
We've been
is
playing it with
real.
success for so long that I am actually still sad we do not run Hellhole Rats, Blazing Spectre,
Blazing Spectre was fun.
and Wrecking Ball.
There are a lot.
Those
of
are all
cards.
cards I would be perfectly happy
I'm also a fan of
casting and playing.
I also am a fan, let it be known, of Rakdos Guildmage. I have always liked that card.
That's even a card. That could be a card.
And that's like so low on the list.
Well,
of
I
things.
mean, the way we handle multicolor now, it wouldn't actually.
Right. But I mean, like,
you could try to
historically-
jam that guy in somewhere else.
like historically,
Yeah.
like Rakdos Guildmage has been like 15th in the competing for 5 black-red spots, and I still think that card.
As we sit here right now, I'm just sad that we don't get to play with Hellhole Rats.
All right, so what are we?
Nothing is scarier than when you're like Hellhole Rats. Your opponent's like, I guess I'll take 6.
Yeah, it's a
You're
good one.
like, the guy with Hellhole Rats is like either pumping the fist
Or like,
what
oh,
the
God.
hell is coming?
Yeah. So where are we going on this?
What I'm saying is, it's Falcon Wrath Aristocrat. In a vacuum, I'm taking Aristocrat over Olivia Voldarin because of the color identities, what these cards want to do in Cube. That's where I want to be. Olivia Voldarin is where every Masticore wishes it could be in Cube, and maybe one of these days it'll find its way back in. I think if you go to our Cube list and look at the Rakdos section right now, you could cut Sark and the Mad and probably put in Olivia Voldarin.
Yeah, and it would be fun.
Yeah, but you know, we like the run goods. We like the
Yeah.
Sorin on 7, Sorin goes down to 1,
The
removes lands
the
for 3
Sarkin
turns.
for 7.
That's what I meant.
7 times.
Yeah.
7, and it's still at full loyalty.
That one I have. That still sounds like a loser.
No, the 0
Yeah.
Sarkin 7 times without it ever losing a point of loyalty.
Yeah, it still sounds like you're losing that game.
I don't know. That's a lot. Of
I think the better one.
draw
was,
7 lands is still pretty good.
Sure. If
Okay.
you have that seismic assault, we love.
All right.
Tide Hollow Sculler versus Mortify.
These cards just do such different things. I don't know if this is really fair.
Well, so again, it's the color identity of
This is-
black white.
this
When
is
you
good.
when you get to multicolor cards, you kind of have to change your evaluation.
this is comparing apples to screwdrivers.
Yes, but they have walls in common.
I personally like Sculler. I think it plays well in white or black, especially white-black. Like, there is so much pinpoint discard, and having more of it is better. It's a white creature, so it's good if you happen to be in a heavier white deck with things like Crusade, Haunter of the Pure, or whatever. It beats down, like... Mortify Destroying Enchantments is good because there's not a ton of enchantment removal. in
It's more and
Cube.
more relevant as we add things like Oath of Ghouls and Oversold Cemetery,
Yeah.
Oath of Druids. So I like Mortify in that regard. I've never been super excited by the whole, like, Mez Fiend, Tide Hollow Sculler, piratey subgame
Yeah.
that people seem to be into.
That's just,
I mean, it's a zombie, so it's got that going for it.
I'm a fan of Zombies in Cube.
And the thing about Black-White is it's got all these creature kill spells already.
You don't need another one. That costs 3 mana. You've already got a bunch that cost 1.
So you're going Tide Hollow Sculler?
I'm
here?
on Sculler all day.
Wow.
And it's an artifact, which is occasionally relevant even in non-straight-up, like, aggressive black-white decks.
So you can block Shadow Mage Infiltrator?
Sure. I mean, you could block even if it wasn't an artifact. 'Cause it's, black.
Oh, right.
I mean, I know it's a little racist, but anyway. Alright, next fight.
I didn't feel like I really got to weigh in on that one, but that's fine.
Too bad.
That's fine. It's Edric versus Shardless Agent.
Why is this even a thing?
I don't know, Eck. Why? Why would it not be a thing? What's clearly clear to you here?
What the fuck does Shardless Agent even do?
That is a good question. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I don't know either.
Okay.
People play that card, and I don't get it.
I don't get that either at all. Oh, God. Really?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, so Edric turns all your guys into Phidians.
And is awesome.
And that's good.
And it's an elf randomly.
Which is not really relevant.
Imperial's perfect, baby.
Sure. Shardless Agent is an artifact.
Okay, go on.
But
You're gonna be like super stoked when you cascade into a counterspell like every fucking time.
it does combo with Oath of Druids. Thank you, chat.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Although oathing into Shardless Agent just makes me want to put a gun in my mouth.
That's actually
That's coming
that
up.
actually way worse. Is it? No, I don't even know if that's worse. I don't know what is worse: Shardless Agent into Oath or Oath into Shardless Agent.
I mean, neither. that whole question could be avoided by never putting Charlotte. Charlotte's Agent is so bad it should have a restraining order against cubes.
People play this card in Cube.
Why?
I don't
it doesn't
know.
do anything.
I thought maybe you would have some insight.
No. Especially because, like,
What is it hitting? Gilded Drake?
Your counterspells?
Your counterspells, yeah. Your card draw spells? I mean,
Okay.
it's always
Okay, if you cascade it to, like,
always.
Ancestral, then that's very good. But
And
anything...
that's the dream.
And anything into getting Ancestral is fine.
And the thing about blue-green decks is there's so much tempo base here.
And they play a lot of counterspells.
Yeah,
and,
I'm
like,
I'm
situational
gonna,
cards.
I'm gonna hit repeal off of this card a lot. I'm gonna hit counter magic off this card all day long.
All the time.
Yeah, well, I'll just Aether Violet into play.
Like,
and
your
that'll take care
best
of the
case
problem.
scenario is you get, like, a mana elf?
No, I think best case scenario you hit like Jite.
Well, okay, yeah. That would be, like, the best.
You said it.
Yeah. So, I don't think this is close at all. I think it's Edric every day of the week.
But,
Edric is...
let's take a few seconds at least and say why is Edric so good?
Edric, he creates very unenviable positions for your opponent, where, especially if Edric is not your actually best guy, like, they can either kill your Edric, who probably isn't even getting involved in combat, to stop the flow of cards, or they can try and deal with your creatures that are killing them and not actually solve the Edric drawing your entire deck problem. Like, it's just so... Like, Edric is just so awesome. If you have any kind of evasion, he's insane.
He does have a strange kind of like flag bearer kind of mentality for
He's
him.
also sick.
That
like,
oftentimes when you're playing cards like Vendilion Click or you're just playing 3/3s for 2 or 3, like
in the green deck, like he makes all your mana guys like so much better.
yeah, that is huge. The fact that your Landlore Elves
Like-
kind of like come back to life in a way.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, like swinging with Finhorn Elves doesn't feel as pointless. Like he's just super good.
All right,
So
we made our point.
yeah,
Burning Tree Shaman versus Rumbling Slum. Who we got here next?
I really like Burning Tree.
Yeah, 3 mana grill card's good. Rumbling Slum still doesn't have trample.
Right?
Yeah, that's what that says.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so
They haven't added it.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's. I like the fact that the activated ability thing is a surprisingly
So relevant.
large dick kicking.
every time a Planeswalker enters cube, Burning Tree Shaman pumps the fist or whatever he's pumping.
This stick.
Stick. He
Um,
pumps the stick.
That came off a little weird.
All right.
But it's just like
Rumbling Slum slowly hits Planeswalkers too.
there are just like certain decks and certain cards that Burning Tree Shaman just hoses so hard. Like, and very few other things like really put the screws to those decks and cards. Whereas like Burning Tree and like being a 3/4 for 3, it also just brawls really well.
Well, they both brawl well. 5/5s
Yeah.
for 4 are good.
Oh, that's certainly true.
Survives Wildfire.
That's certainly true.
These are things that are relevant. These are arguments that would, cause us to go slumming again.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that's not going to happen.
But at that point, like, wouldn't like Spellbreaker Behemoth? Yeah.
Spellbreaker Behemoth was in cube for a second.
Yeah. Like not being countered is that possibly better than slowly pinging people?
I don't know. Again, the fact that none of these cards
Have
deal
trample.
damage to an opponent ever.
Right. I mean, not having trample is kind of the worst.
Yeah, I think I can remember playing Standard when Rumbling Slum was legal, and I was always the person not
All
playing
block.
Rumbling Slum,
All block.
and I don't think I ever lost to that card. So that's probably argument enough to never put in cube.
No. Okay.
It survives through Wildfire.
That's
It's a
better.
5/5 for 4.
That's
It
better.
does slowly hit shit. That is the only argument that we made for it. I mean, you can put it up against a ham sandwich. I'm probably still taking ham. But alright.
Sandwiches are delicious. All right. We have one last fight.
Is that it?
Yeah.
The end of the fights?
End of the fights. We have
The
last
most
fight.
important
I mean,
fight?
pretty much the last thing on this episode because we've been talking for an hour and a half.
No, we have top 10 lists.
Anyway.
Run it.
All right. Last fight.
Lynn Civvy versus a gun to the face. This one is close, I think.
Answer is pretty much gun to face.
Yeah.
I would rather be shot in the head than play with Lynn Civvy and Q.
Yeah, because what the hell?
I mean, the Rebel chain.
Isn't real.
It's-
Let's be honest.
You know, you could spend all your time and all your mana and fill your entire deck with a bunch of gray ogres and shit.
Not only is it not a real thing, but how fun is Lin Civi?
The answer is less fun than being shot in the head.
Lumen Grid Warden that can now search your deck for annoying guys forever. White is not that bad anymore, kids. We don't need to do these things.
Yeah. If you still are near someone with a cube that has Lin Civi and the Rebel Chain in it, do them a favor and have an intervention on their behalf. Tell them.
I'm not going to say, like, it can do stuff, but I'm not...
It's just...
It's not even anything I get behind.
No. Not
well, there you have it. That is today's very an extended version of the Versus segment. Well, these will be coming back oftentimes. It does search for changelings, for as much as that is relevant.
Yeah. Mini Colossus. The answer to everything.
Used to be Misform Ultimus.
Yeah, sure.
So, that was, I wouldn't say exhausting, but that was a tour de force.
It was exhaustive.
Yeah, I mean, some of those were real conversations that took place over card evaluations over time. Some of those were
a little more theoretical
or theatrical, depending on how it were. So, that being said, we doctored up, kind of our top 10 favorite cube cards as of the cube stands right now.
Yeah, do we want to go into that?
Oh, why not? We're here. We did all the time. Are you sleepy, Eck?
I'm a little. I mean,
a little sleepy.
We got a late start too.
It's 3 a.m. on the East Coast, which means that all 20 change people that are here right now are
very tired.
Very tired.
They're all very tired.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not gonna tease it and not do it.
All right, fine.
Let's
get started.
Let's match it up. Let's have fun here. Eck, what's your number 10 favorite card in Cube?
My argument on these.
Did you just random the Gatherer while we were standing here?
I did, yeah.
I thought you were looking at Tornado.
Yeah. So, my argument for my choices is not the best cards, and it's not, like, the most exciting, the things I win with the most often. It's just the things that are my personal favorites for a number of different reasons. So,
get behind them.
Number 10 for me, Kiki Jiki.
The Kiki Jiki
Mirror Breaker.
You got it.
There are very few cards in Cube that have such a wide scale of power level where
this is starting to sound like a rehearsed speech. Did you prepare some words on
I mentioned it a little
Kiki
bit.
at a time?
I do like Kiki Jiki.
Did you stand outside?
He starts, he can either literally just be like a guy who attacks for 2, to making like mediocre guys, to like instantly winning the game, and anywhere in between.
Yeah, he is crazy at how full of range this card is.
And very few cards in Cube are like that.
I've definitely cast it, paid full price, and then just attacked for 2.
Yeah, that has happened.
Additionally, I have cast it,
gone and it.
Yeah, I actually let me rephrase that. I have had Zealous Conscripts against you.
Yeah,
taking your Kiki Jiki.
Yeah, that was devastating.
Oh man.
All right, so and your number 10?
My number 10 is Pillage.
Pillage. What is Pillage?
Now I wanted something that kind of signified red. That feels like this is something I see, that I draft. I like alliances. You know? And Pillage was the card that kind of came to me. It was like between this and Lightning Bolt, and again with the kind of more artifact-centric cube that I have, Pillage was where I landed. I love the artwork. I love the casting cost. I love the berry. There's no part of Pillage I don't enjoy.
Okay, number 9
for you. Yes.
My number 9 is Cabal Interrogator, and that's a bit of a weird one for most people.
Do tell.
I enjoy the little sub-game that comes with playing Cabal Interrogator. If you're just using him as they pitch a card for 2 mana and tabbing him, that's fine.
Okay, so kind of a consistent, kind of what was it,
like,
Nizumi Short Fang?
He's sweet because you get to maximize your mana usage every turn. Like, it's turn 4, even if you just have, like, another 2-drop to play, you get to hit him for a card. If it's late game, you don't have anything to do, you get to strip their best card. If you have anything in between, you get to look at a couple cards. And then, like, even, the sub-game of what cards do I show them? Do I keep showing them the same cards every time? Do I change it up and try and like hide what I'm trying to do? Do I show them lands? Do I don't?
Yeah, I mean, it does. Again, anytime you can create a fun and engaging sub game that's interactive between players in a game of Magic, you have a good play experience.
Yeah.
Cabal Interrogator also gets the award for Magic card most looking like a foot soldier. So
Yeah, right.
So you get that as well. That is a fine one. And that card angers me so much because I remember block season where I was playing Blue-Eye Control and I lost a win in a match to a guy playing Black-White.
Voluntary.
Yeah, and I kept getting my shit kicked in.
That's brutal.
So then the next month when we came back, I had whip quarters in my deck, so I could try to stop.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I ended up like two-2ing that PTQ or something,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really matter.
All right.
Number 9 on my list, Gaddock Teague. This guy is a machine. He is one of those fringe, seems like Celestia cards. A lot of people even play in their cubes. I love this card. Mostly because in my cube, there are so many decks that don't play creatures, only play non-creature spells that cost 4 or more.
It's true, they get hosed pretty hard.
Yeah, this guy just comes in and just right the deck.
And it's great because you can actually see, if you pause the film here, you can actually see your opponent's spirit breaking when you resolve Gaddock Teague. It's just they look at their hand and just, oh.
And in the current, and this is cubing from 2 to 5 years ago, and nowadays you can even Green Sun Zenith this guy out for the full non-bows within your own deck, which is I just love this guy. Gaddock Teague does not get enough love. Again, you can save him with Caracas. You can make him keep coming back over and over again and making your opponent mad. And I've been on both sides of it. It's not a one-sided thing. I've definitely been sitting there looking at Wrath of God, counter spell, so-and-so, X spell in my hand, being like, God damn this guy.
Yeah. All right, number 8 for me. He's a new inclusion, but I am already a humongous fan. That's Duskmantle Seer.
Yeah, I think actually, if you had this guy 2 decks.
2 awesome decks.
Yeah, you.
I so far, I was pretty high on this
Air
card.
Elemental on steroids. You have gotten so far. I don't even think you need to say anything else.
No.
It's been around for a month,
and it's already
number
in my top 10.
8 on your top 10 favorite cards in Q.
That should say enough.
That tells you a lot.
That
Norbert's taking off. We'll give him the. He's going to pick the rest of this up on podcast. We'll give him the official hello Norbert on podcast. I'm sure he's listening to it now, so we'll say hello to him again.
So yeah, Duskmantle Seer, totally awesome. Love that guy. It's already on the list. That says enough.
I was going to say, is there any anything else you want to?
No, nothing needs to be said.
All right. My number 8, the one of the original fatties, we have the Akroma Angel of Wrath. And I can remember playing this card in Extended. I can remember playing this card in Block. I can remember playing this card in Standard? No, not in Standard. Block straight to Extended. Reanimating Akroma Angel of Wrath is still very satisfying today. Sure, it can't be necromancied. It can't be animate deaded.
Dance of the Dead.
Can't be Dance of the Deaded. So it's a little more awkward. But making these things happen is still very satisfying. And I think, to me, Akroma was kind of one of those middle ground cards between where, Sarah Angel was the face of Magic at one point in time. Now Jace is the face of Magic at one time. I think Akroma...
Remember how insane Akroma seemed when they announced that card?
I am still, to this day, I am so cheesed. We had a casual 8-man draft.
Oh, yeah.
You might have been there. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm so full of rage to this moment that I can't even remember who was there. I just remember we were sitting in a draft. It was Onslaught Legions. This was a Saturday afternoon. And Nico was there. And at this point, Nico's a 13-year-old little twit.
Yeah.
And he picks up my Legions pack. He's like, there's a foil chroma here. There's a foil chroma here. And I'm like, sure, whatever. We get to the last pack of the draft. It was Legions. We open it up. Boom, foil chroma. I was like, oh, this is amazing. My deck was great. I casually go to 2-0. And it's me and Dave, the old attorney. And people are coming in and going. We want to get another draft going. And Dave's like, hey, if we start another draft now, we can get 8 people. We can just draft again. Should we just high roll for who gets first pick in the rares instead of playing the third match? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, the deck's really good. I'd kind of like to. All right, whatever. We'll just wait to get another draft in. Lose the die roll. Lose the foil chroma.
Should have never done it.
It was a terrible day, but she beats nonetheless. I have definitely, for more loving memories before Cube, it was the turn 1 Cabal therapy myself, name Akroma. Yeah. Have my PTQ opponent open his hand looking confused, showing me no Akromas.
And you're like, no, I
I'm
turned
like, no, this way. But thanks.
All right, my number 7. Plow Under.
Yeah, Eck apparently likes to make friends because, he puts cards like Cabal Interrogator
Plow Under
and Plow
is
Under on his list.
possibly one of the most satisfying cards to resolve in all of Cube.
Because you're just a dick.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Like,
what the hell, man?
Plow Under is just such a beating. It feels great.
Whoop. There
Nice
goes.
catch.
Thank you.
It's just, it always seems good. It's such a great way to finish games when you're ahead. It's such a great way to get back into them. It's
Finish games are great. Maybe just beat any hope your opponent have into the ground.
right. It's an absolute soul crushing.
Remember that time you had lands in play and you were gonna cast spells? Well, turn that shit off.
Yeah,
And
and
by
now
the
you're not
way-
even gonna draw spells. You're gonna draw these lands.
I hope you like what else is in your hand because you'll
Yeah.
be looking at that shit for a while.
Yeah.
Wow, that's strange mean streak out of you. For me, my
I have my moments.
my list is way more like nostalgia and love. I mean, I've got coming in number 7. I've got Sylvan Library.
Oh, that's so nice.
I know, right? To me,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There we go.
4th edition. You can fix that. Get that whiteboard out of here.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Anyway.
Sylvan Library. When I talk about Cube in various places in various forums, I bring this card up a lot. It's one of those things that reminds me of my earliest days of playing Magic. I remember going to one of the larger game stores that we would play at, and there was a guy who had a Power Rangers themed Magic deck. And I guess it's important to point out that this gentleman was older. Now, granted, at the time I'm 11, so everyone's older. This guy was probably in his early 30s. He was a Rastafarian persuasion guy as well.
Okay.
So put that image together, and then put together him with a sweet Power Rangers themed deck, like he'd play Mesa Pegasus, and Clockwork Avian was his pterodactyl. He had they had this whole theme, all the Rangers would assemble and
That
they would
is
do it.
so stupid.
And so Sylvan Library was the Zordon power temple or whatever they would go to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm either too old or too young for Power Rangers. I don't really know which one it is. Either way, these are memories I have of Magic very early on, and Sylvan Library was still a good card back then. It was a great card put together in the Cube together.
Okay. Keeping up my mean streak.
Here I am just trying to be the nice nostalgia guy, and you
And
are just...
yeah.
For some reason, you are the one blowing up all of the lands.
They're it's fun.
Destroy those lands.
Destroy them all.
Destroy those
Destroy
lands.
those lands, yeah.
Sundering Titan, tell us more about Sundering Titan.
I've never been sad anytime Sundering Titan is in play on my side of the table. Any way I can get it there, I'm happy with. Tinker,
I think there's...
Recurring Reanimator, Recurring Nightmare.
There might be a little too much proof of my love for that card, where it's I will get to points in the game where my opponent has 2 lands in play and I have 6. I'll destroy 3 of mine to get 1 of his.
Yeah, Sundering Titan is just such a beating to play against.
Why does it say enters or leaves the battlefield? What the hell?
This is This is from the Vault Relics.
Yeah, whatever. Same thing.
So, it's just... Sundering Titan is just such... And also, the 7-10 split, the occasional bowling joke. Anyway.
Was that really what you would top 10 a card of your favorites from Cube
If I made
because of a bowling joke?
I mean, it's kind of funny.
All right. Now, I guess I still have a bit of the LD mean streak in me. Sure, we've got Pillage, but Johnny Vengeant is on my list as well. Talk about such a sweet card. I mean, Lightning Helix.
This is a sweet one.
Keep your stuff tapped, and eventually Armageddon is a good time.
And it's not just keep their lands tapped or something. Whatever they got going on, tap that shit. Best guy, get rid of it. Problem permanent, deal with it. They don't have anything, they lose a land. It's so fun. And just Lightning Helix is sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely think of all the times where I've cast a Johnny Vengeant and immediately used the Lightning Helix effect. It either means I'm about to be very far ahead or I'm about to lose.
Yeah.
One
It's
of
either
those-
desperation or the killing blow.
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily what's your life total? Okay, Helix you, but more oh, you only have one thing going on. I'm going to kill that thing.
Yeah, I don't give a
Now I'm
crap
going to have
about that.
resources in this card in play.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Johnny Vengeant. It's very
Sweet.
high on my list.
Very sweet. Alright, my next one.
We're coming back to the fun category for you, I would say.
Yeah.
It's Bituminous Blast time.
So I I played a lot of Jund in Standard, including on Moto, where I was a...
And you're not dead.
I know, I
You've
somehow
not committed
lived.
suicide from Jund.
It was close. I had to check into rehab, but I did grind 8-mans on Moto with Jund, so I played a lot of this card. Cascade is fun. I mean, for all of the problems with Cascade, and it's random, and it, blah, blah, it's less skill intensive. It's still fun to do, and it just leads, like, Cascade always leads, especially in Cube, to, like, awesome stories.
And Bit Blast is possibly the most fun, just kind of from a Cube perspective. I mean, yeah, Bloodbraid Elf's more competitive, it's maybe a better card, but, Bit Blasting happens on your opponent's turn a lot of times, so all of a sudden, sorceries, creatures are entering the battlefield, sometimes you're super boss, and you happen
totally
to Bit Blast.
changes the game around.
I think the best Bit Blast ever was the one into Mana Drain.
Yeah. That was not good.
Which hit a legal target from our opponent.
Yeah.
Those were good times.
This on my list, this was almost Maelstrom Wanderer.
Wow.
Because that card, Cascading, you think Cascade is fun. Cascading twice
a lot is fun.
is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Like, way more than twice as fun. It's like fun squared.
So for me, number 5 on my list, it's got to be the boss of Mana Fixers. It's got to be one of those cards that, especially in the earliest days of Cube, was probably one of the best cards in Cube. And also was part of, constructed formats and a competitive card. Coalition Relic. Talk about just giving you the wide open signal. It's the
it's giving you a
the
signal.
third base coach, or is it the who's the guy that tells
waving you in?
No, I was gonna say, who's the guy who lets you swing away on 3-0?
Oh, that would be the head coach. The guy on the manager.
With the sports, I'm not the best. My point is, Coalition Relic is like being able to swing away on 3-0. Any cards you see after getting this card into your pool are live.
It's a signal, right? A signal of fun is about to happen.
Fun?
Fun is coming.
I mean, talk about, it reminds me of kind of like Celestial Dawn from Mirage, where you get like the bleach effect, you get the whitewash, where you can just kind of take anything.
I love taking Coalition Relic first and just going absolute back crap.
Your eyes get to go so wide every time you pick up a pack of cards.
Fuck it. I just want to play all these awesome spells, and they're all going to make my deck, and, every Coalition Relic.
And on top of that is an accelerant that's very good. Going from, turn 4 having 6 mana out of one card that goes 5 color is ridiculous.
So, alright, number 4 here. For me.
For the Eck machine.
Another kind of mean card. Bribery.
Don't make friends with bribery.
Don't make friends with sell it. So Bribery is just great. I mean, being very good.
It's swingy these days.
Yeah.
Again, in the old Wild West,
mono
dragons,
in the Dragon Cube, it was amazing.
The guy with the second best dragons in his deck would usually be taking the bribery very highly, because then he would play people with better dragons,
and he
could steal them, and you could always steal them earlier than the other dragons would be cast.
Right.
So it was this huge tempo play to do a lot of bribing.
I mean, I always enjoy, you get to look at your opponent's deck, you get to see what they drafted, and a lot of times, on a lot of levels, it's a very, no pun intended, but revealing kind of thing, where so that's what you're trying to do. I get it. Okay, that's cool. And then, it's just awesome, because you're paying 5 mana to take some giant guy out of your opponent's deck. And, even if you're only the occasional times when you bribery for stuff like a Skin Render or Shriekmaw or Bone Shredder or whatever, just to kind of get whatever they got going on and stop that is sweet. I love bribery. Bribery's always fun.
Yeah, and again, back in the day, it was much more of a preemptive control magic, Haymaker. Nowadays, it's a little more swingy, which actually means I think I like it even more, because it can be one of those cards where you cast against your opponent and it's half dead.
And then the other times it's just absolute break your back, make you humble.
I don't know what.
All right.
Next on my list, we've got Gifts Ungiven. It's kind of a build me around me card. It's kind of a value card. It's one of the ultimate cards in Magic, just to kind of have interplay with your opponent and see who can make decisions the best.
It's a lot like Fact or Fiction in that regard.
Or Intuition, or any of these cards. Yeah, I love me a Gifts Ungiven. Finding scenarios where cards like Body Double and just putting stuff into play, or into your graveyard even. I mean, of course, we have the seemingly classic, although still pretty new school, Iona and Burial Rites kind of combos. I mean, there's no Burial Rites in there, so
yeah.
Yeah, I love Mia Gifts Ungiven.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those cards that's not always a clear first pick. It's not always clearly going to make your deck. You do need kind of things to go with it, but when they do,
It's sweet.
casting gifts is just
And it's always just
so
like awesome
rewarding.
value. Like even if you're just kind of getting like whatever. Like,
Get 4 lands out of my deck I don't want to draw. Get 2 of them in my hand.
yeah. All right. Number 3
For you?
For me.
This is your number 3?
Revelark.
Revelark?
Revelark is awesome. Love Revelark. Love drafting around Revelark. Love casting it. Love killing it. Love bringing it back into play. I mean, ideally with Karmic Guide, but that's a little greedy.
Yeah. Nah, body double.
There's so much stuff.
Phantasm Limit.
I mean, Revelark is just so sick.
I'm right there with you. This is actually pretty much the biggest overlap because Revelark is also number 3 on my list. Know where we need to go. I have a Revelark problem, I feel like.
You are. I never get to play Revelark because you just windmill that thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm playing blue-black control,
Fuck
Revelark.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
playing, aggro-red, Revelark. That guy...
Green Acceleration. Revelark.
Oh my god, it's good everywhere. You
I
get back
know.
Avalanche Riders, you get back Gaddock Teague, you get back was it Psychotog, or you get back Shadow Age
Getting
Infiltrator?
that Baleful Strix. Drawing a card.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean obviously it's ridiculous you get back Venser and you get back,
It's just Revelark just plays well with others, and it's so much fun. So number 3 for both of us. My number 2 is actually a tie, half Coalition Relic and half Chromatic Lantern.
See, I don't think this is the yin yang, the black white cookie you make it out to be.
I feel that it's pretty close, and the reason is not necessarily like Coalition Relic is obviously better acceleration, but both of these cards, what they mean to me is, okay, game on, time to do whatever the fuck you want, and it's gonna be good. Like being able to just like ignore color mana cost is awesome.
Yeah, as much as
It's-
Coalition Relic is, I still think Coalition Relic is just a wide open green light.
Having both,
Well, that's not about having both.
yeah,
Chromatic
both,
Lantern
oh
is,
my God.
is one step further, where it's actually nothing has any mana requirements whatsoever. You can do.
you are free to do literally whatever you want, and it's always gonna be rad.
Yeah.
Like I've never had a boring deck that had Chromatic Lantern in it. They're always the sweetest.
I'll give you that. I think it's a bit of a cop out, but whatever. So who's your number 2?
It was a tie. Chromatic Lantern.
Oh, okay. That's not my number 2.
Oh.
Ah.
I had the wrong thing.
It's okay. Coming in at number 2 on my list, again, one of those cards that was kind of, I don't want to say an impetus for Cube, but it's one of those things you always kind of come back to and want to play. It's good old Juzam Jin. I might actually shed a tear if and when we ever got this guy from Cube.
It's coming. I
'Cause
have to say.
It's been closer these days. But come on, he's a 5/5 for 4.
Flag Sliver got the X.
But we added Sliver Queen.
Oh. I mean,
Either way, this guy just screams Magic the Gathering to me. Any of you?
Juzam is one of the most flavorful, like
It doesn't
sweet.
have any flavor.
I mean, like sweet, like history of Magic, like nostalgia.
Yeah.
Things that are not directly related to its playability.
Yeah, again, like anyone who was
so
familiar
fine.
with Inquest magazine from the 90s, he was like a character in the magazine. He would have comic strips.
Yeah.
He has artwork from The Duelist. He got drawn all the time. I love me and Juzam Jin. It was one of those things, again, as a kid, it was one of those strange cards that you had to find a way to get it and play with it. Maybe
Right.
that would help you understand it, know what's going on. All those things are really important. And so to me, when I think of Cube, I especially think of the cards I had the most fun with, that remind me the most of why I'm here having fun, he's right up at the top.
All right. So we made these lists independently.
Completely independently.
No discussion amongst them. There's a lot of
None
overlap.
whatsoever.
However, there's a lot of overlap on number 1.
Oh, right. My mistake. Because you had moved your shit around. I think that's
did.
why we ended
I
up...
changed the list a couple times.
We strangely overlap on 1 and 3. So the number 1 pick for both of us, most fun card in Cube, number 1 Cube card in that regard is a Chaos Orb.
And I feel like this one is pretty obvious. How often do you get to get out of your chair and fling cards around? It is, A, is awesome. It's a 3-mana Vindicate, and it's an artifact, it's just super good. But also, Chaos Orb is an endless source of great stories.
Yeah, I mean,
The Tom Martell one.
yeah, there's been a lot of classic moves with Chaos Orb. Again, without having clearly defined rules on how you play it.
I think it's important that your cube, whoever you draft with, you have. If you play with Chaos Orb, you have
You have to tap it? I don't remember that.
you have a preset agreement on how you handle it.
Mhm.
So, like for us, when Chaos Orb is on the stack, you can move all of your permanents. You can rearrange them on the table in any way you like. But once it's in play, you are no longer allowed to move your things around until it is gone. So, like, cast Chaos Orb in response, spread all my lands out.
Yeah.
Is like the common play, unless there's no table space.
Play space does play a little bit into this. I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, we have enough play space where we can just kind of play it with the way we intend it to be played.
Right.
When that's not the case, it gets a little bit awkward.
So, one of my favorite cube stories ever is the Tom Martell Chaos Orb
The
story.
Tom Martell, in terms of Chaos Orb.
So, this was years ago now. We're at an event, and Tom Martell is there. The guy, he just won Pro Tour Gate Crash.
The guy, yeah. I think
Yeah,
at this
that
point,
guy.
anyone who's watching or listening to this
Probably
now,
knows who he is.
Probably knows who he is.
So he's from around where we are. He was cubing with us.
I think this was was this a Shadowmoor pre-release?
It might have been. It's around that time.
Yeah.
So, Tom had never really cubed with us before, and
At this point in time, he wasn't really living in the Bay Area. He was like coming in from New York.
So he, during the draft, was like, "Whoa, you have fucking Chaos Orb in here? Like, holy shit, that's awesome!" We're like, "Yeah, you can play with Chaos Orb. Like, it's super good. It's fun." And he's like, slams it down in his deck. He's like, "That's fucking rad. I'm gonna play Chaos Orb. This is great." So then, like, we go along.
Your interpretation of Tom Martell has to be way more of a sailor than I thought.
Well, I don't know. So we get, through deck building, and we're drafting, and we're playing. So, sitting there, playing Tom, and I'm just, I've got stuff in play, we're at a table, got my hand, and he just taps 2 mana, and says, Chaos Orb, and then just throws it.
yeah, he does.
It never hit the table.
Strange kind of flippy hand.
He tried to, remove it from his hand and then fling it into play, because you have to rotate it, and it has to go a foot off the table. So he tried to do all this in one motion while casting the spell, in an attempt to, get me.
Right,
Like,
you can't move any of your stuff, but it's already left the stack.
Right,
It's
so,
not resolving.
oh god, it's gonna, land on my giant stack of lands. And he just straight up throws it into my lap. It just lands, it hits me in the chest.
Yeah,
and just,
it was inches from just hitting you in the face.
Yeah, it's just dink, and, lands in my lap. It was just okay, that resolves. That's fine.
Good.
Yeah, here you go. And I just
put it in his graveyard.
Put it in his graveyard, and I was like, that, that's great. Nice try. I mean, that was cute, but
And one of countless stories. Get mind slavered. Your opponent goes to take your turn.
Stack 'em
You
all up.
draw a Chaos Orb. Yeah, there was the classic. Stack up all of your permanents in one nice little pile. Flip the Chaos Orb to hit them all, but you're being mind slavered. That was a good one.
that was a good one.
There's the
tablecloth.
Yeah, there's the classic pull the tablecloth out from underneath the game going on while the Chaos Orb is in the air to move all of your permanents to safety. There is the Judge, Chaos Orb landed on my library. Is my library destroyed call that we've seen. That one was hard not to bust up in hysterics about.
The occasional people hitting their own things unintentionally
Oh my
because
gosh, those are some of the best.
because no one who plays Cube has a lot of manual dexterity for obvious reasons.
Oh,
so they're just
watching somebody carefully get the card over the intended target,
very measured.
flip it. And Eck has done this in the past. He grabs the card by the corners, thinking this. I don't know, the camera right. This is proper holding technique to flip, and this is just the worst. So it just comes off his front finger turns, flips back, and hits his own stuff.
Right, which is obviously stacked up because I'm not prepped for it.
And we're all just kind of looking at it well,
That happened.
good job.
Yeah,
Good
there's
job.
the Bill Buckner ball through the legs moment. So.
Well, again, when I think of Cube, when I think of the history of Magic, when I think of all these things, Chaos Orb is right there. I mean, in some ways,
It hits on every level.
I think it was important for me to make a Cube because I had a home for that card. Yeah. There you have it. Well, we have gone deep tonight. We have to hustle to get out of here in under 2 hours. We had a lot of stuff to cover. Eck doctored up quite a bit of graphics for us. We apologize for coming in so late this evening for those of us who stuck with us live or tuned in anyway along the road. Again, you can check us out real quickly. If you're on the Twitch channel right now, it's easy to find the information about the blog spot. You can click that RSS feed or virtually subscribe to us, so anytime we post anything, you'll be known. Go ahead and friend us or favorite us or however it works on here on Twitch so you can get notified anytime we're going to go live, so you can try to join us when you have a thing.
Hopefully next week it'll be a little earlier.
Yeah, tonight, Cube League ran long this week. Our normal broadcast time will hopefully be about 9:30 Pacific time, and we're also looking into finding other times where we can get the East Coast audience more involved. Next time, East Coast audience, when we try to do something for you, show up. Yeah. That way we'll be more inclined to. That being said, go back and watch the beginning of the episode where we do a crack a pack there. That's always very engaging if you showed up late. If you're listening to this on podcast, you've probably already turned it off because...
You're just rambling at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it kind of rolls out.
All right.
For us, next week here live on Wednesday, for those of us listening to it in the car, thanks for stopping by. Hope you love Cube as much as we do. Check us out on social media. Shoot any questions you have for us we can cover if you don't listen to it live.